Welcome, all my fellow Washington brethren and sisters. I am your man and resident Washington football fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on the Washington Football Report Live. Lot to get to tonight because I told you this week we were going to kind of start taking a look at free agency. You know, everybody wants to jump straight to the draft, but I actually like how the NFL has it set up. They're one of the few sports that actually has the draft after free agency. For me, I like to know exactly what I need in the draft. Unlike other sports where you're not necessarily counting on that draft pick to come in and help right away. So you can have free agency come after the draft. In the NFL, those draft picks are going to play for you right away. So I much rather know what I need in the draft, and the value you get out of draft picks is tremendous because it's a low cost proposition for a guy that may be able to provide huge dividends for you. See the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've got a bunch of talented young football players on rookie contracts, which allowed them to go sign Tom Brady, to sign Ndamukong Suh, to sign Rob Gronkowski, to sign Antonio Brown. Now, some of those guys are on smaller deals, Leonard Fournette, so forth and so forth. Some of those guys are on really meager deals. Doesn't matter. You know, Brady's signed a 2-year, $50 million deal, essentially. So, I mean, you're talking about them shelling out some real dough to bring in some guys that if Shaq Barrett's on a franchise tag, so you're talking about every bit of $17, $18 million for 1 year of service, they could do that. Why? Because you got Chris Godwin on a rookie contract. Because you got O.J. Howard on a rookie contract. Because you've got Tristan Wirfs on a rookie contract. Antoine Winfield Jr. The entire secondary is on a rookie contract. All right? Vita Vea is on a rookie contract. You can do that when a lot of contributing guys, Devin White, on rookie contracts. So, I like that free agency comes first. And a lot of people like to skip over free agency as if it doesn't exist. Free agency is huge, especially when you're kind of in the stage that Washington is in this season, going into the offseason, having won the division. I think they're a year ahead of schedule, okay? I don't think any of us, I can't speak for you guys, I didn't expect us to be where we are right now in terms of division winners and first place schedule. And look, Vegas still doesn't respect us. People around the league still don't respect us. I wouldn't have it any other way, okay? Don't give us anything. We'll take everything. We'll take the respect that you don't want to give us. We'll take that, okay? You're going to have to give it to us because we're going to take it from you. And I think this is a massive offseason because Ron even said it himself. I think we got here a little bit sooner than I thought. He didn't think we were going to be playing in week 17 for a chance to win the division. He didn't think we were going to be hosting a home playoff game this year. So we're ahead of schedule. And it's always fun. And I told you, I've been through this multiple times with other teams in other sports. You know, I've seen my team who we set up this plan for 3-4 years of growth, and then we'll be ready to compete. And the young team, just so much exuberance, so much will to want to win, and just not knowing any better, that they're supposed to not be good. And they find a way to get there a year or two early. Did it with the Braves, did it with the Grizzlies. Now we did it here with Washington. So this is fun to watch. But this is a massive offseason. We may not get everything done. As a matter of fact, we won't get everything done this offseason. I know a lot of you want to get everything done. You've got an entire shopping list, and you want to hit every single item on the shopping list. Not gonna happen. I'm going to tell you that right now. You're not going to hit every item on the shopping list this offseason. However, you can start picking off some of the really important items. And look, there's no item on the list more important than quarterback. We can all agree on that. Now, we're never going to agree on how we should go about the quarterback position. Some of you want Deshaun Watson, and you're willing to give up any goddamn thing it takes to get him. Some of you want to go after Derek Carr. Some of you want to go after Sam Darnold. Some of you just want to stand pat. Some of you want to see Taylor Heineke get an opportunity. Some of you want Alex Smith to come back. We're all over the place on this thing. A lot of you, I can't say most of you, a lot of you want to draft a young guy. So you want to trade up in the draft and get one of the top 4 quarterbacks. You're like, hey, I'm cool at 19, taking Mac Jones. Hey, we can get Kyle Trask in the second round. I can't tell you how many of you are continuing to send me messages about Kellen Mond in the 3rd round or whatever. Kellen Mond stinks, okay? But that's not a conversation for tonight. That's a conversation for another day. Anyway, we're all over the place with this quarterback situation, okay? We're all over the map here. That's the biggest item on the shopping list. Probably, I'm going to guess, and I told you guys what I anticipate happening. I don't think we're ultimately going to solve that this offseason. There's interest in Sam Darnold reportedly. Interest doesn't mean you're going to do anything. We talked about that. I told you what I'm willing to part ways with. Nothing more than that. If they did it with a first, I wouldn't be excited about that, but I wouldn't be mad either. But I wouldn't be excited about that. I'd be really intrigued if they gave up a second for him or 2/3 or something along those lines. I'd be fine with that. Anyway, I don't think they're going to do anything at quarterback. But we've got a slew of other needs with this football team besides quarterback that you could take a look at this offseason and may be able to take a couple of those items off the list. And that's what I'm looking to do. And I wrote down a list of items, shopping items that I think Washington needs this offseason. Again, you may not get to every single item. Every single item on this list may not be attainable this offseason, and that's okay. But I think you can take 2 or 3 of these items, maybe even 4 of these items off the list. That's what you do when you go shopping. You want to get everything, but if you can't, get as many items as you can. So my list, and again, our list may be a little bit different. Your list may look one way. My list may look another way. You may think we need one of these really bad, and I may, I think we're fine there. You're like, nope, need to put one of those in the cart. This is what my shopping list looks like for this offseason. Obviously, quarterback is at the top of this list. Again, I would love to see Kyle Allen and Taylor Heineke or get an opportunity this season to see what they can do in an offense that they are very comfortable in. I really want to see Taylor Heineke. Personally, myself, really would like to see Taylor Heineke get an opportunity, but that's not for me to decide. I've already made my position very clear on the quarterback. I don't mind trading for 2 types of quarterbacks, either the young quarterback with upside or the quarterback that is a veteran that consistently has produced in this league and we know exactly what we're getting, which is an upgrade over what we currently have. Those are the only 2 types of quarterbacks I'm willing to trade for. And I've already made it very clear that I would love to get a young quarterback in this draft. Now, the ones that I really like, probably outside of our reach. But there are going to be some other guys available, like Mac Jones, like Kyle Trask. If you're intrigued by any of those guys, they'll be around. Mac Jones, if you want him, you're going to have to take him at 19. He won't be around by the time 51 comes around. But Kyle Trask, more likely than not, will be around at 51. And if you want him, you can take him there. He may even be around in the 3rd round when your pick comes around. We got 2 of them. He may be around when that first 3rd rounder comes up. So quarterback definitely on the shopping list. Number 2 wide receiver is the second item on the list. And I've said this as well. Of all the items that we're going to have on our shopping list this offseason, that's the one I can guarantee you we're going to get this offseason. I can't tell you about quarterback. I told you I don't think we're going to do anything there, but something may happen. We'll see. They may draft a guy, they may not. They may trade for a guy, they may not. We don't know. But wide receiver, they're definitely going to get a wide receiver this offseason, and we're going to talk about that position in particular tonight at great lengths. We need a number 2 wide receiver, and that's not up for debate. And I think that's going to happen very, very shortly. I think that's one of those things I think we're going to take off the list as early as day 1 of free agency. I think we're going to be in there, in and out in terms of the wide receiver position. We'll see. Middle linebacker is the next item on the list of shopping items for this team this offseason. To me, that's what would really complete this defense. I'm really fine with everything that we have coming back, if you told me we weren't going to pick up any more items defensively, if we're going to bring back Ronald Darby, we're going to start Kendall Fuller opposite of him, if you told me I was going to get back Landon Collins at strong safety, and you told me I was going to insert DeShazer Everett at free safety and that Cameron Curl was going to be on the field a bunch because we're going to be in nickel quite a bit and he's the big nickel, I'd say, all right, we're ready to go. Just give me a new middle linebacker and we can make this thing happen. You know, that to me is the big piece missing here. Now, I think we could add and upgrade some other pieces on defense, but the middle linebacker is the one that I think needs to be added the most. So that's the next item on the shopping list. Then it's tight end. Remember, we only got one tight end on the roster under contract, and his name is Logan Thomas. Everybody else, Jeremy Sprinkle, Marcus Ball, Hemingway, all those guys that we saw paraded through the lineup at some point this season at the tight end position, all free agents. And frankly, I don't think we want any of those guys back. Okay? The staff may be intrigued by Ball or one of these other guys that they've had their hands on for a couple of years now, going back to the Carolina days. That's fine, but look, we need to upgrade tight end. We've been running from this for years. We really have. I mean, even when Vernon Davis was here, we never truly had a blocking tight end. I really would like to add one of those. Even if we don't get a true difference-making, field-stretching target at tight end, and we just roll with Logan Thomas, he's earned enough of my respect and trust that I'm fine with him being tight end 1 going into the season. I'd like to upgrade it. I still think he's a tight end number 2, but that's nor here nor there. We need a blocking tight end, damn it. Logan Thomas isn't it, and we don't have one, and we haven't had one. Going back to the Jordan Reed days, we haven't had a blocking tight end on this roster since Logan Paulson. Since Logan Paulson, that probably dates back to 2013, 14, somewhere in there. It's ridiculous. We haven't had a blocking tight end in ages. We need to invest in one of those. And those don't cost a lot. There are quite a few of them on the market this year. There's some names. We'll talk about some tight end names that are going to be of interest this offseason. But again, I don't know what they're going to do at tight end because they didn't invest heavily on the tight end position last year when they really needed to. And they got some really good value. I don't know if they're going to look to exceed what they did last year. We'll talk about that later on. Cornerback is the next item on the list of items we need to go shopping for this offseason. Now, if they bring back Ronald Darby, the cornerback position isn't as big a need. However, who's to say he's back? And even if he is back, no Fabian Moreau, not to say that we used him all that much anyway, but it was good to know that if something happened like at the beginning of the season when there was no Kendall Fuller, it's good to know that in a pinch, Fab Moreau could have come in and given us quality snaps. We don't have him to rely on. He's going to be gone this offseason. I don't know what Jimmy Moreland really is. And at this point, I think Jimmy is nothing more than a serviceable corner in this league. I don't think Jimmy is all that great. We need to upgrade at cornerback. Whether Darby's back or not, I think there needs to be some draft capital, maybe a free agency move on a lower costing corner. I don't know if that's what they're going to look to do. If you invest in Darby and bring him back, that means you would have spent at the cornerback position 2 years in a row. I don't see them addressing corner with another free agent acquisition if Darby is back. So you'd have to probably look at the draft if you're looking to add cornerback. There's no way that Washington comes out of this draft if they don't do anything in free agency without getting a cornerback or two in the draft. I remember last year in my mock draft, I think I had us taking like 2 or 3 corners last year, and we needed them. Didn't know what we were going to. First of all, we didn't have Ronald Darby, I don't think, at that time of the draft. Maybe we did, maybe we didn't. I wasn't sure what we were going to get out of him anyway. But that's nor here nor there. Bottom line is, even if Ronald Darby is back, we still need more help at corner. I think that's more along the lines of the draft if Darby is back. However, free safety is the next item on the list. Look, I actually like what we have. I don't think what we have is necessarily game-changing, although I am very intrigued with what we got out of Shays last year. DeShazer Everett, for me, was a revelation. And I felt like there's something there to him. The more he plays, I think the better he would get. However, he's got a frame that doesn't suggest he'll be able to stay healthy with the way that he plays the game. He plays with a reckless abandon that's fun to watch, but it's also hard on the body. And he has a cornerback body playing safety at a rate of speed and physicality that's going to land him on the injury report more times than not. So I think you have to do something there. I thought we got a nice bit of play from Jeremy Reeves as well back there, but Jeremy Reeves is, I feel confident that if something happens at free safety, I can put Jeremy Reeves in on the back end and it won't go to shit. Doesn't mean I want him starting. So, and Troy Apke, God help us all if he has to go in the game again. So I think that's a position. Again, you don't have to do anything outrageous. You don't have to go out and chase after a big money free agent and bring him to Washington. I think that was a last year thing that we wanted to do. I know personally myself, I can't speak for you. I was all in on going after the Minnesota Vikings safety. I was all in on going after the Denver Broncos safety. But Justin Simmons wasn't available because the Broncos slapped the franchise tag on him, and so did the Vikings with their safety. So those guys didn't come available. Now that those guys more likely than not are going to hit the market, I don't think Washington is all that interested in spending that kind of money at safety when you just spent that kind of money on Landon Collins a few years ago. And again, at this point, you would love to get out of that deal if you could. So I don't think they're going to invest. You already invested money in Kendall Fuller last year at corner. You may have to invest more money at corner this year for Ronald Darby. And you've already invested a ton of money in Landon Collins. I don't envision them investing more money into a secondary that they probably feel like, hey, we can get. And remember, think about what Ron did in Carolina. He never overinvested at free safety. It was always Trey Boston. They wouldn't have anybody. Then they had Mike Adams there for a spell. And then they went back and got Trey Boston again. It was always these low risk, high reward type of propositions where they weren't going to just pour a ton of money into that position. He always talks about Mike Mitchell and how well he played for them before he moved on to Pittsburgh. Again, another guy that was coming, I think he was a second-round pick in Oakland when he was drafted. Didn't pan out in Oakland. I think he was a second or a third-round pick. Didn't live up to the hype in Oakland. They got their hands on him. He played really well for them, turned it into a big deal for the Steelers. So I think they feel like you can just get by with the guy at safety. I don't think they're going to spend a ton of money there, but free safety is on my shopping list. This next item may surprise some of you, but if you're thinking long-term, it shouldn't surprise you at all. My next item is defensive end. There's no Ryan Kerrigan this next season. For the first time in what feels like a long time, close to a decade, there will be no Ryan Kerrigan. There will be no 91 on this roster coming up next season. And so this rotation that we had, that we fell in love with, you know, and if a guy gets tired and they tap out, you put in Kerrigan. You know, I'm all about the more Chase Young and Montez Sweat I can get, the better. But those guys get tired too. And a fresh Montez Sweat and a fresh Chase Young is a dangerous Montez Sweat and a dangerous Chase Young. The way to keep those guys fresh, get off the field on third downs. They'll keep them fresh. But if you just so happen to run into a 9, 10, 11 play drive and they need a blow, you want to be able to come in with a guy that isn't going to have you falling off the damn face of the earth like Casey Toohill, like James Smith-Williams. Okay? So to me, defensive end is a position that I think they've got to invest in. Now, I don't know what James Smith-Williams is to them. They obviously loved his versatility. That's why he made the football team. They think very highly of him. But is he really a guy that can platoon in for Sweat or Young, and we feel like he's going to actually get pressure on the quarterback? I'm not here interested in guys that are just really good special teams players that we want to give a chance to. Can you actually impact the game? Casey Toohill doesn't seem like a guy that can do that. Neither does James Smith-Williams. We're going to probably have to do something at defensive end in this draft. I don't see us, again, defensive end isn't a position that you normally can go into the scrap heap, into the back of the store, on the clearance rack and find an item like the Buccaneers did. That's rare. When you go to the back of the store, and I told Washington, when Shaq Barrett was a free agent. Hey, go get you some of this Shaq Barrett fella. I remember him tearing shit up when the Broncos were at their apex and winning Super Bowls with Peyton Manning at quarterback, barely hanging on. I said, man, they had a hell of a rotation of Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware and Shane Ray and Shaq Barrett. They came in waves. You couldn't stop those boys because they had so many guys that could get to the quarterback. And Tampa Bay said, hey, I'll give you $5 million for 1 year. And he went out there and he wrecked shop. And now look at what Shaq Barrett's done for the Buccaneers. Helped them hoist the Lombardi. It's rare to find those kind of guys walking the streets. It's rare. Normally, if you're going to get that kind of production, and remember, Shaq Barrett was among the leaders in sacks 2 seasons ago. Okay, it's rare that you're going to get a guy that comes in and has the impact of a Shaq Barrett for a $5 million contract, for a show me, prove it type of deal. So if you ask me, you're going to have to probably get a guy in the draft. How much are you willing to spend in terms of draft capital? Is that a 4th round pick? Is it a 3rd round pick? Is it a 5th round pick? If you want this defense to work the way that we want it to, they need to find at least one quality defensive end. Could they find that guy on the streets? Maybe we'll see. We'll talk about that on another day. Today we're going to focus more so on the offensive side of the football, specifically at the skill positions, more specifically at receiver, and a little bit of tight end. Finally, my last item on the shopping list is running back. Now, it's way down the list, just like defensive end, way down the list. If we didn't get any running backs or any defensive end help, and we just went into the season with what we already have and, a couple of undrafted guys, and maybe one of them shines and makes the team, whatever the case may be, I'd be fine. Peyton Barber grew on me, and my man Reed told me, he says, Lou, he doesn't do anything great. He's a Pam Mom guy, but you're going to love him. He plays hard, Lou. I remember my guy Reed telling me, he plays hard, Lou. The man didn't miss a single time this season on 3rd and short or 4th and short. You can't tell me a time because there wasn't a time. He had at least 25. That's probably a little bit excessive. He had at least 15 3rd or 4th and short carries this season. And he converted every single one. The guy was fantastic. I've never seen anything like it. That kind of reassurance deserves a roster spot. Because I can't speak for you. But in 3rd and 1, when we got down by the goal line or in the middle of the field, I said, what are we doing? Put Peyton Barber in. It's time to take a trip to the barber. And we knew it was automatic. Only problem is our damn offensive coordinator at times didn't understand that was automatic. But the other team knew we were running Peyton Barber, and they still couldn't stop it. That's a really good feeling when you know, hey, we picking this up. Peyton's in the game. He's going to get it. But with that being said, if Antonio Gibson goes down like he did this past season, you would really like to have another guy step in. Like, JD's cool. JD's not an every down rock toter. You'd really like to have another guy. Like, Peyton Barber's cool, but Peyton Barber's like not the guy you want getting 17 carries, because we saw what 17 carries looked like for Peyton Barber in a game. It was 17 carries, 29 yards. I don't want to do that again. But I do want him on the team because there's a niche that he's carved out for himself. And I haven't seen anything like it. But, that's why they really wanted, and maybe he still might, but that's why they really wanted Bryce Love to work out. Because they wanted that extra guy. And to me, this is his last offseason to figure it out. If he can't get right, they can't get anything out of him this year, he's done, I think. That's the way I feel about Bryce Love. But anyway, that's my shopping list. The only item on this list that I just gave you, the only one I am 1,000% certain about us getting and scratching off the list is the position that we're going to talk about tonight. And that's wide receiver. You can't convince me that we're not getting a receiver this offseason. I just find it hard to believe. We went all in on Amari Cooper last year. I think they're going to go all in at the receiver position this year. Now, are they going to shoot for the moon like they did with Amari Cooper? Maybe, maybe not. I don't think they're going to do that. I think that might be out of their price range this year, especially with the cap coming down. However, they're not going to go all the way to the back of the store and go shopping on the clearance rack. That's not what they're looking to do. Not at wide receiver. So we'll talk about those receivers a little bit later on. I do have some super chats that I want to get to real quick. I don't want them to go away. So I'll knock those out, and then we'll get to some of your comments, and then we'll get to these receivers and start talking about receivers, tight ends, and things of that nature that we may be able to add this upcoming season. Got a super chat here from my man Vincent Coe. Thank you for the super chat, Vincent Coe. Greatly appreciate you. Vincent Coe writes, Lou, are we losing Russ? I'm chill, but I just saw the news about him openly being all frustrated about getting hit too much. He's not going anywhere. He's frustrated, and he just wants the Seahawks to fix it. You know what I think might have done it for him? This isn't the first time. Russ has been getting his ass kicked his entire career. But you know what probably did it for him? As he looked up and watched the Super Bowl, and it was two different teams on the field. And he said, which one does my team resemble? The one with the quarterback getting pressured in NFL Super Bowl record 29 times? Or the one that's back behind his offensive line, comfortably delivering the football to whomever the hell he wants? Why is it that Brady, who has two left feet, who doesn't run at all, never has, never will, why is it that he's got all this time to survey the field and deliver the football? Meanwhile, I got to run for my damn life just to try to help my team move the football down the field. Why is it that I'm watching Patrick Mahomes? And again, the circumstances surrounding Mahomes and why he wasn't protected is documented, okay? However, he got to watch it firsthand and say, that's what I look like. I'm sick of being a damn punching bag. I'm sick of being among the league leaders in sacks every goddamn year, taking sacks, I should say. And why can't we have an offensive line like Tampa Bay's? They drafted Donovan Smith 5-6 years ago. They drafted Tristan Wirfs. They found gems on the interior of their offensive line, like Ali Marpet in like the third round. Why can't we do that? Why do we keep effing it up? And it's not like the Seahawks haven't spent resources. They just haven't gotten it right. And that's why Russ said, hey, I need some input. I can tell you who can get it done and who can't. You guys can't. You seem like you just don't get it. Let me help you. And we're seeing more players like Deshaun Watson wanting a little bit more input. If I'm going to put my body on the line, at least let me have a little say so. I am the franchise guy. I'm the face of this franchise. We're going to live and die by my success. As I go, the rest of the team goes, well, at least let me have a little bit of input. And I don't think he's going anywhere, just so you know. But he's frustrated. He's telling you guys, I hope they're listening. Unlike Deshaun Watson in Houston, when they weren't listening and it's turned ugly, he's telling you something and how he feels. It's almost like a relationship. You know how sometimes as men, we don't listen? Our females are telling us things that how they feel and emotionally where they're at. And you're like, oh, yeah, I hear you, babe. Yeah. And you're not listening. He's crying out for help right now. Help him. Listen to what he's saying. If you don't, you could find yourself in a Deshaun Watson type of situation. You're not there, though. You're good. Thank you for the super chat, Thomas Forsyth. Greatly appreciate you. Got another super chat here from John Livingston, my man J.L. Smooth. Thank you for the super chat. Who writes, y'all should go after Matt Milano over Bostic, even though I'd love to keep Milano. It's probably not realistic. What do you think Brady said to Matthew? You talking about during the game or after the game? Because you know he texted him after the game and apologized. I don't know what was said on the field. Look, when you're competing at the highest levels, All right? I mean, that's the highest of highs. It's the Super Bowl. Emotions run high. I'm pretty sure they were MFing each other up and down. Like, he probably told him, I just picked your mother effing ass off. The officials keep bailing your bitch ass out. And, it's a lot of those going back and forth. And Brady's like, yeah, well, we just scored a touchdown on your ass. You had to hold my guy. You helped us get it in the end zone. And then Antonio Brown just broke you off. How about you go stop somebody? Go look at the scoreboard. We busting y'all ass. It's a lot of that going on. And look, it's no hard feelings. That's just competition, man. That's just competition. And I'd love to get Matt Milano up off you. I really would. We'll talk about the middle linebacker position at greater detail and greater lengths down the road. Matt Milano is a really good linebacker. I don't know if he's necessarily what we're looking for with the way we play defense, but he'd definitely be an upgrade. That is for sure. JDSG writes, depth is so, first of all, thank you for the super chat. JDSG, greatly appreciate you, who writes, depth is so important. Injuries, knock on wood. Absolutely. And they proved it last year. Remember, the first thing Rivera did when he came in is he said, look, I want to improve the depth on this roster. One of the things that, he figured out in watching this team and seeing the lack of success is he said, you guys don't have enough depth on this roster. Every time you have injuries to your frontline starters, your season goes to hell in a handbasket. So what I'm going to effectively do is I'm going to come in here. It's not going to be glamorous. You're not going to be all enthused and excited about this. But I'm going to bring in Cornelius Lucas. I'm going to bring in J.D. McKissick. I'm going to bring in Logan Thomas. I'm going to bring in Peyton Barber. I'm going to bring in all of these guys that are going to provide depth for us. Okay, again, none of these are big name free agents. None of these are guys that are going to get you really excited. I'm going to bring in Ronald Darby. Okay, we're going to provide you guys with depth. Now, we may have some of these guys overachieve, which we did. But at the end of the day, we are going to have depth on this roster. And what happened? At tackle, we traded for David Sharp right before the season started. And we were like, what are you doing? We got Jaron Christian. We got Momo. We got Cornelius Lucas. Why do we need to go trade for David Sharp? We got Sadiq Charles. We got all these tackles. He said, no, you can never have enough tackle depth, man. Trust me. Well, we needed that. We even needed David Sharp, who was our very last tackle. And he wasn't very good, but he was enough to get by. So depth is important. It is very, very important. So I can't stress that enough. My man Reese says Shaq Barrett has 28 sacks in 2 years. That's the kind of guy that we would love to go out and find on the scrap heap, but those guys don't exist. You got to be very, very insightful, and you have to have the foresight to say, hey, this guy didn't get a ton of snaps where he just came from, but the talent is there. That's the only thing really holding Shaq Barrett back in Denver was that he had Shane Ray and he had Von Miller, and even for a little stretch there, he had DeMarcus Ware there. Like, it was a bunch of dudes there. So, he got some time at the end of his Denver career, but, he knew he bettered himself. He knew what he was capable of. And I would love to get one of those types of guys. My guy that I kept saying, hey, I think this guy can play was Jerry Atauchu. It just never worked out for whatever reason. I was always a Jerry Atauchu guy. Anyway, Brendan McCloskey, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My man B-Mac writes, Barber was automatic, systematic, hydromatic. I like what you did there. I see what you did there. He says he was definitely greased lightning. LOL. Great show tonight, Lou. Thank you, B-Mac. Greatly appreciate you. And my man Ree chimed in and said, hey, look, Peyton Barber gives you 110% every single time. And we saw it. I didn't even know my man Ree was watching, but I referenced my man Ree because I remember when we signed Peyton Barber, he said, I'm telling you, Lou, you're going to really like this guy. He plays hard. And he wasn't lying. And I can't tell you how many times he got hit in the backfield on a 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1. And he powered through contact because he knew, if I don't pick this up, we either turn it over on downs or we got to punt the football. Or I'm going to force coach to have to make a tough decision whether to go for it or not. He never put Ron in that position, ever. He always converted on 3rd downs. Remember the first game of the season? We go for it on 4th and 2 against the Eagles. Peyton Barber bounces it outside, takes some contact, dives over the guy, and gets 3 on 4th and 2. It was a hell of a run. Like, that's what Peyton Barber has been for us. Just phenomenal. Thank you for that, Brendan McCloskey. Got a super chat here from the Great Watubi. Thank you for the super chat, Great Watubi, who writes, Louie, would you want Cousins back if the Vikings decide to move on from him? I never wanted him to leave in the first place. You're damn right I would want him back. You know how I feel about Kirk Cousins. It's the rest of you guys out there. And I may not specifically be talking about you, because if you didn't like Cousins, you wouldn't be asking me about him. But there's a lot of fans in the fan base that thinks that Kirk Cousins isn't worth a damn. They couldn't be further from the truth. He's a choke artist when the game's on the line. He's this, that, and the third. Go ask the New Orleans Saints in the playoffs 2 years ago if he was a choke artist. Okay? Look, go ask the Philadelphia Eagles back in 2015 if he was a choke artist. Okay? This notion and this narrative that I'm not going to go down that road because, I can go down that rabbit hole and I'll get death threats if I I kid. But you know how people get really passionate about Kirk Cousins in a negative capacity. Yes, to answer your question, I would love to have him back. The Vikings aren't going to move on from him, though. But I'd love to have Kirk back. I never wanted him to leave in the first place. Got another super chat. This one is from my man, John Livingston, a.k.a. JL Smooth. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. The first to do so tonight. Greatly appreciate you, John, who writes, I don't know. I've seen a bunch of stuff today linking Sam Darnold to the Washington football team. I'm a fan of Sam, and the kid deserves a fresh start. We talked about this. I had a video that I put out yesterday because there wasn't a report on, I want to say, Sunday night, the same night of the Super Bowl. Might have been earlier in the day that said, Washington was interested. They didn't say that Washington was going to trade for him. They didn't say that Washington offered the Jets anything. They just called, more likely than not, to see if the Jets were looking to move Sam Darnold and maybe to see what the prices, just like in the market, they can change. And my understanding of the Sam Darnold situation is that the Jets are going to wait to see what the Eagles get for Carson Wentz. And they're going to base what they're looking for Sam Darnold off of what the Eagles get for Carson Wentz. And I think they say to themselves, look, Wentz just had a terrible season in which he got benched for a second-round rookie draft pick. Okay, if the Eagles can somehow finagle anything more than a first for Carson Wentz, and we've heard the reports that the Eagles want a Stafford-type haul is what is being reported. I don't think they're going to get it. If they are able to get that, Howie Roseman deserves GM of the year now. Not like right now, like now, okay? But if they get anything more than a first rounder, first of all, Carson Wentz, to me, right now as it stands, shouldn't be commanding a first-round pick. Not after what he put on tape. But the upside, what we've seen from him in the past, we know he's capable. A change of scenery may do him some good, but he's not coming off of a big-time year. He's coming off of a dud of a season, which is why he's in a position to be traded here in the first place. And he's part of the reason Doug Peterson got fired in Philadelphia. So if I'm a team interested in Wentz, I'm not giving up more than a first-round pick. I wouldn't even give up a first-round pick personally, but I wouldn't give up more than a first-round pick. No third-round picks attached. You're definitely not getting another second out of me. If they said, hey, we'll give you, and I'm speaking, let's just throw the Bears out there. That's the team that seems to be linked. I think it's either the Bears or Indianapolis. I still think it's Indianapolis, but the Indianapolis Colts, I can tell you right now, and their GM, Chris Ballard, not going to do anything foolish, like give the Eagles anything more than probably a second-round pick. They may feel like a first rounder is worth maybe finding the quarterback of the future for them. They're not coming off of anything more than a first. Chris Ballard isn't going to do it. But Chicago may be desperate enough. They've got a GM and a head coach that are both on the hot seat. And if they don't win and win big in 2021, they could be out. And so maybe they're in a position where they feel like they need to do something drastic to change their fortunes in Chicago. However, I could attach, a first round pick with Nicholas Foles in his contract and send that to Philadelphia for Carson Wentz. I'd do that. But no way in hell am I giving you anything else other than a first round pick and or Nicholas Foles. So we'll see what happens. Wouldn't it be ironic if the Eagles went and got Nicholas Foles back and got him for Wentz and traded him for Wentz? And wouldn't that be crazy? Anyway, I digress. I think the Jets want to see what the Eagles get. And if the Eagles, let's say the Eagles just get a first rounder. Then they realize, okay, the quarterback market isn't as crazy as it was 2 weeks ago when the Lions were able to get 2 1s and a 3 for Matthew Stafford. Things have died down a bit. We'll take a 2 for Sam Darnold. But if the Eagles can get a 1 and a 3 or 2 1s or something preposterous like that, they're going to say, hey, look. If they could get that for Sam Darnold or Carson Wentz, I need a first round pick for Sam Darnold. I think someone's going to fork over a late first round pick. I don't see it being a top half of the first round pick. I think it's a back end of the first round pick, but I do see that getting it done. I personally myself think that our 51st pick overall in the second round is too far back in the second round. I think it's going to take a pick somewhere in the 33 to 42 range to get you Sam Darnold. I think 51 may be a little too far back for the Jets' liking, but we shall see. When it's all said and done, we don't know what's going to happen with Sam Darnold. And the Jets are trying to drum up a bunch of interest in him. Don't know if the interest is all that great right now or not. We'll see what happens, though. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat, Metaphor. Greatly appreciate you. My man, Metaphor, writes, look at where Brady's input got Tampa. 3 TDs to his gimme me one of those in the big game. Listen to Russ and Watson coach. So it's a little bit different when you're talking about the GOAT and him having input. When you've won 6 Super Bowls prior to this year, when he showed up in Tampa, when you've won the most Super Bowls by any single player in NFL history, and you're tied with entire franchises like Pittsburgh and New England, well, he got them all 6 of those championships, so I shouldn't even count New England. And you have more Super Bowls than the illustrious and prestigious franchises like San Francisco and Dallas. Yeah. You should have some input. You should be able to go to the coach and say, hey, I can vouch for this dude right here, i.e. Gronk. I can vouch for this guy, i.e. Antonio Brown. Trust me, they'll get it done. They won't be a problem. Yeah, you should listen to Brady. And I think Russell Wilson has gotten to that point now. He's a veteran. He's been in this league. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. He's won 1. Yeah, you should listen to Russ when he talks. Watson? Not so much. Now, this is the problem with the Texans. They should have never told him he was going to be a part of the process if they weren't going to make him a part of the process. That's where they effed up. But Watson is the face of your franchise. But he hasn't won anything of note. He hasn't done anything yet that warrants him having the ability to go to the coach or the GM and say, hey, I can vouch for this dude. I know what he brings to the table. Hasn't done anything yet. That doesn't mean he shouldn't have input. But what I'm saying is there's levels to this thing. And Brady's all the way up here. He's not in the same conversation with anybody else. But we'll see what happens with that situation. Again, got another super chat. This one is from Martin Matthews, my man, Double M. Greatly appreciate you, Martin Matthews, who writes, hey, Louie, learn me up. Me and you are the only ones talking John Ross. Everyone else is talking Robinson. He's good, but he's not a burner. Other than Samuels from the Panthers, what other free agents can take the top off of a defense? I've got a list right here of receivers. We're going to talk about them tonight, but there are a number of guys that can run that'll be free agents this year. I can list off a couple of them. And again, we'll talk about these guys in greater detail later on tonight, but there are a few names up here that piqued my interest. One is Will Fuller. We know he's arguably one of the fastest receivers in the league. I've said nobody takes the top off a defense quite like Will Fuller outside of Tyreek Hill. For me, nobody seems to get behind defenses. And I'm talking, not just talking about behind the defense by 3 yards or so. Will Fuller is open by 7 yards. Every 2 weeks, I see a deep ball, Deshaun Watson hitting him, and the nearest defender is trailing Will Fuller by 5 to 7 yards every week. So we know Will Fuller can run. You've already mentioned Curtis Samuel. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names, I may add. John Ross is a guy you just mentioned as well. He can run. Nelson Aguilar is a free agent, and Nelson Aguilar can run as well. Isaiah McKenzie is a guy from Buffalo that's a free agent that's interesting. I'm going to bring him up tonight. He can run. Some guys to a lesser extent, but Chris Godwin can run. I don't think Tampa Bay is going to let him out of their building, but he can run. Kenny Golladay can run. He's not a burner, just like you mentioned with Allen Robinson, who isn't a burner, but those guys can run. Samuel Watkins can still run. He's going to be a free agent. So there are some guys on this list that can run. All right. And some other guys that I didn't even put on my list that can run. But it's not just about pure speed. It's not just all about speed. If you're talking receivers and what we need. Yeah, we need a guy that can run opposite of Terry. That'd be nice. But more than that, we need a consistent receiver opposite of Terry. Too many drops by this receiving core last year. By guys outside of Terry. Too many drops by Cam Sims. Too many drops by Steven Sims. Too many drops by Isaiah Wright. Too many drops by every guy not named Terry McLaurin. We need a consistent wide receiver. And some of these guys, even though they've got tremendous upside, they had some issues with drops too. So you can't just expect them to come here and catch everything. They weren't doing that before they got here. So we're going to talk about a lot of guys tonight at the receiver position, but I just gave you some guys that can run. And I think they are interested in guys that can run. Thank you for that super chat, Double M. I got another super chat here. This one is from Metaphor. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Metaphor, greatly appreciate you. My man Metaphor writes, if Ryan K isn't wanted, you pick him up at a discount? Trust me, there are going to be teams out there that are willing to sign Ryan Kerrigan to a 1 year, $7.5 million deal. There's going to be somebody out there that may be willing to sign Ryan Kerrigan to a 2-year, $20 million deal. And, it may say $20 million on the contract and the numbers may sound great, but it may be incentive based, It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, he's not coming back to Washington. He's already made it abundantly clear he wants to start. It's not happening here. So if you are out there and you're still holding out hope that Ryan Kerrigan is walking back through the door, you're sadly mistaken, and I feel bad for you because he's not coming back. The man has made it clear. He wanted to be traded. He won at the trade deadline. His people put it out that he wanted to be traded. He walked it back because, and he wouldn't talk about it. If you didn't want to be traded, when you were asked about it, he could have easily put it to rest and said, I never said I wanted to be traded. I never said that. He said, I'm not talking about that right now, which tells me he wanted to be traded. He thinks he can still play at a high level, and he feels like if given more snaps, he'll be able to produce 11 and a half sacks. I don't think that's the case. Let him figure that out somewhere else. So, but with your premise, if Kerrigan is just floating out there in the free agency abyss and nobody else seems to be that interested, you're damn right I'd want him back. Why not? Again, it wouldn't cost you a bunch if that were the case, but somebody's going to be interested. There are going to be teams out there that are going to be interested in a Ryan Kerrigan, just like the Indianapolis Colts were really interested in Justin Houston a couple of years ago. He's one of those guys at the twilight of his career, but that can still produce for you if given an opportunity. Someone will give Ryan Kerrigan an opportunity to start. So he won't be back. I don't see that happening. Got a super chat here from Dijon Bell. Thank you for the super chat, Dijon, who writes, will we trade up to get cornerback Surtain or wide receiver Waddle? I don't think we're trading up to get either one of those guys in this draft. Like, if they traded up, I don't think it would be for a corner or a receiver. I told you, I think we're going to be aggressive in free agency on a receiver, so I don't see them really feeling like receiver. And don't forget, we got a bunch of young stuff at receiver. So they just drafted AGG last year. He redshirted essentially. You still got the wide receiver from NC State coming back off of injury. There's a bunch of young guys on this roster. I don't see them investing in a early draft pick at wide receiver. I really think if they trade up in this draft, it's for one of two positions. I think it's either for quarterback or I think it's for tight end. And if they feel like, let's just say with all the quarterbacks they're going to go in the top 10, and the assumption right now is that 4 of the top quarterbacks in this draft are all going to go in the top 10. Let's assume that at least 2 or 3 tackles are going to go in the top 10. Let's assume that at least 1, if not 2 wide receivers are going in the top 10. Again, there are only 10 spots in the top 10, right? So I just gave you 4 quarterbacks, 3 tackles, and 2 receivers. You're probably going to get a cornerback in there. Maybe you don't. I said all of that to say that a guy like Kyle Pitts, who may go in the top 10, I won't count him out. All it takes is one team to fall in love with him. He could fall out of the top 10. And Washington could be just sitting there at 19 saying, if he gets to 11, we're going to get him. Like, they may have a certain draft pick in mind when they say, hey, if he gets to the 11, we're picking up the phone and we're calling such and such, and we're seeing if we can't move up and get this guy. He's a game changer. It's only 2 positions for me, quarterback and tight end. I don't think they're going to trade up for a corner unless they don't re-sign Darby and they don't do anything else. Then corner kind of goes up the list of needs this offseason, and that's when I think corner starts to come into play. Let's say that they really want Darby back. And Darby because I've shown you, we've tweeted, and we've seen articles about teams interested in Ronald Darby. San Francisco, all right, is a team that looks like they're going to be very interested. They're not going to be alone. They're going to be other teams. I told you there's always somebody eyeballing your stuff. Even if they're not looking directly at it, they side-eyeing your stuff. They still looking. Even if they're not looking in that direction, they still looking. They see your shit. So if somebody like San Francisco says, hey, Ronald, love what you did last year, man. How about this 4-year, $48 million deal? And Washington's like, whoa, we didn't even pay that much for Kendall last year. You can have him. We weren't looking to pay him $12 million a year. So he goes in and takes that deal. Now you're like, well, we don't even have a starting corner. Then, in that particular instance, you could see Washington say, you know what? We need a corner. And that's when a guy like Jalen or Patrick Surtain the second, or Caleb Farley from Virginia Tech, one of those guys kind of steps to the forefront, and maybe Washington is then interested in moving up to get a guy like that. But if the offseason goes the way that I think, Darby's back, they go out and get a free agent wide receiver, I don't think those 2 positions are on Washington's radar in the first round. I think if they're trading up, it's going to be quarterback or tight end, personally. But we'll see. Again, that's why free agency is so impactful, because if you lose Darby in free agency, which is a real possibility, so that's not a given that he'll be back, then you run into a situation where corner becomes a very big need for you, and maybe one Washington will be willing to go up to take care of. So we'll see what happens. Thank you for that super chat. Got another super chat. This one is from King of the North. My man, King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, King of the North, who writes, it's still early, but my guess is Alex Smith talks Ron into keeping him. Alex gets another offseason to get that leg stronger, maybe a procedure to tweak it, an improved brace, and I think he starts week 1. I hope that doesn't happen, but I think you could be right, because Alex talked Ron into keeping him on the roster last year. I think Ron has a soft spot for Alex. We told you that. I told you this because I talked to Panthers fans before Ron, or when he first got here, and I asked Panthers fans, give me some intel on Ron Rivera. What should we expect? They said one of the things I heard from Panthers fans was he, at times, to a fault, is too loyal to veterans. Alex won us 5 of our 7 games last season. Alex won us 5 out of our 7 games last season. So there is this thought probably in the back of Ron's mind. If Alex is healthy, he gives us the best chance to win. I don't know, but remember what Ron said, and he said it out of his own mouth, when asked at the end of the season, if Kyle Allen was healthy, could you have still been in the same spot that you are in now? And he said, yes. So I do believe that he thinks Kyle Allen can give them a chance too. But I think he trusts Alex more. And that's scary for me because I don't want to go into 2021 with Alex Smith as a starter. I don't. I would love to just move on. Alex, I appreciate what you have done. Love your record here in Washington, and you'll get a lot of people that point to the record. Oh, Alex Smith, why would you want to get rid of him? He's 11, blah, 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 and blah. That's great, man. But anytime he was at quarterback, I never felt like we were going to do anything big. Never. And so I need a guy that's going to instill hope in me that if it comes down to it, I got a shot because my quarterback's going to give me a shot. I don't feel that way with Alex. If all things are going in our favor, Alex is a guy that can be a great front runner. He'll help you manage the game. If the defense is playing lights out, he won't turn it over, and he'll take care of the football, get you in the right plays, all that good jazz, and you'll have a chance. But if you're down, and you're down big, the Detroit game, the Giants game, that's not Alex Smith. Those are anomaly games. Okay? He's more of the Cincinnati Alex, the Dallas Alex, the Pittsburgh game Alex. That's more of who he is. Manage the game and give you a shot at the end. I hope you're wrong, but you're probably right. King of the North. You're probably right. John Livingston, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you tripling up. Greatly appreciate you. My man JL Smooth writes, Rip Marty, prayers to his family. You probably right, Russ not going anywhere, but don't you find it odd that they fire Brian Shoddy, who wanted to let Russ cook, but Pete has other plans? Remember, the offense got very stale at the end of the season. You had guys like DK Metcalf speaking out about the offense and the lack of creativity and how teams knew exactly what they were doing, and that's why they struggled down the stretch. And it just wasn't a playoff game. They went into the postseason struggling. Remember how well Seattle was playing early in the season? Everyone was talking about Russell Wilson as an MVP candidate, and then all of a sudden, you get to about 2/3 through the season, and this Seattle Seahawks offense, it really started with that Buffalo game. Maybe even the week prior to that against the Rams. They got their asses handed to them against the Rams the first time. They got their asses handed to them the following week, I believe, against Buffalo. And from that point forward, the offense just kind of took a nosedive. And it was because of that Brian Schottenheimer got fired. That was Russ's guy. They had a very close relationship. But this is a results-based league. I tell you guys this all the time. It's a Janet Jackson league. What have you done for me lately? Doom, 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 doom. Ooh, yeah. And if you ain't doing shit, and if you haven't done anything of note, of late, you're going to be gone. And Schottenheimer, his act was getting stale in Seattle. It's time for fresh blood out there. So I don't think he's going anywhere. But that was his guy. Ain't no doubt about it. King of the North. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, King of the North. Greatly appreciate you. My man, King of the North, writes, if you can have any free agent wide receiver, who do you think will be available? Who's your guy? Do we need shifty speed or big possession type to pair with Terry? I would like to have a combination of the two. if you ask me which one would I prefer, I would tell you I would take the big possession receiver. I just don't think we have one of those guys that consistently makes plays. I mean, how many big-time 50-50 balls did Cam Sims drop this year? And he had the biggest catch of the season, the one-hander versus Pittsburgh. So I don't want to shit on Cam Sims like he wasn't an integral part of this offense, because he was. But when you're 6'5", and you're a big target, and the quarterback throws it up to you, I need you to make plays. And that wasn't really Cam Sims this season. And for all of the good things he did, again, there were still drops. You know, the Tampa Bay game comes to mind. That's a big drop, first possession of the game. Can't have it. Too many of those. He had some big drops against Carolina, and it's just too many of those. But you want speed. You do. You really do want speed, because that's what threatens defenses, when they have to be afraid of what you can do vertically. And when Terry got injured, much like the year before when Terry got injured, you got nothing if Terry goes down. You gotta add some more speed. That's why I would be really interested in seeing if they would double up at receiver in free agency, because again, John Ross isn't going to cost you a ton of money, I don't think. So I would be interested in seeing if they could get two for one. You know, but you know, if I could have any free agent wide receiver, the guy that I probably would want the most, it's hard. I think I would go with it's going to cost us the most money. I think he's going to be the free agent wide receiver that commands the highest deal. And he's a little bit older than I would like him to be, but of this group, he's the most consistent. It'd probably be Allen Robinson for me. However, you know how I feel about Corey Davis. And I think the most dynamic of all of these receivers is Will Fuller. But Will Fuller is consistently in the shop. This year, he was in the shop for PED usage, but normally he's in the shop because of a hamstring or a calf or a knee or an ankle. So you got to weigh that into the equation as well. But, I mean, Chris Godwin is really, really interesting. I would love to have him. If I had to pick one, I'm not going to waffle. I'd take Allen Robinson. He's 28. I would like him to be 26. He's not. But I know his game is not going to just fall off the table. Even when he loses another step, he's still going to be able to separate with route running ability. And even if that isn't quite getting it done, he's got supremely gifted hands. So even if a guy's draped all over him, he can still make tough catches. So he's like Pierre Garçon. Like, we haven't had a Pierre since Pierre. We've been dying for one of those guys. If Terry is Deshaun, we need a new Pierre. Allen Robinson would come in and immediately be that for us. It's going to cost you a pretty penny, though. But that would be the guy that I think I would go after. Metaphor, thank you for your third super chat of the night. Greatly appreciate you. My man Metaphor writes, sign Trubisky or Darnold. Sign Trubisky or Darnold for second. Minshew for third. No. There's no Minshew necessary. Again, we got two guys on the roster that look a lot like Gardner Minshew, not in terms of stature, even though Minshew and Taylor Heineke are probably very similar in stature. We got two guys that are on par with the caliber of quarterback that Gardner Minshew is, probably even better than him in Washington already, and they know the system. No. Darnold, of the three guys you just mentioned, Minshew, Darnold, Trubisky, the only guy I'm interested in is Darnold. Not interested in Mitchell Trubisky nor Gardner Minshew. I told you I would do Darnold for a second-round pick. I've already laid that out, that I'd be more than willing to give up 51 for Sam Darnold. No hesitation. I'd give it up. Just to see if this guy is, because if you're telling me I got a chance to solve the quarterback position with a young guy, I got 2 years left on his rookie contract, and then even if he plays well and he thrives in Scott Turner's offense, You're not going to have to pay him $37 million when his contract is up in 2 years. You know, he'll get a Ryan Tannehill type deal. I can live with that, right? So you're not breaking the bank even if Darnold's good. If he's not, you move on. And you're only spending a second-round pick to figure it out. Like, I wouldn't have a problem with that. Anything more than that would be uncivilized. John Livingston, thank you for your 4th super chat of the night. Greatly appreciate you, John. My man JL Smooth writes, what in the Sam hell is going on in Houston? Easterby was the team's pastor, now making personnel decisions. They are firing people close to Watson. This organization is in serious trouble. They are definitely in serious trouble. Easterby's whole rise to essentially the second man in charge in Houston is one of the biggest stories in Houston. It's been well laid out as to how he got there. He seems to be the common denominator with everything that is wrong in Houston. Everything that goes wrong, there is like this thread that you pull, and that thread, if you keep wrapping it and keep pulling it, when you get to the end of that thread, it always seems to lead back to Jack Easterby. So their owner, Cal McNear, doesn't seem to be able to understand. It seems like he's in that same position that Washington fans can attest to with Daniel Snyder and Bruce Allen. It was almost like Daniel Snyder was too blind to see that the guy that was the most problematic was sitting right next to him the entire time. And whether he was blind or stupid or both, he refused to get rid of the guy that was the biggest problem in the organization. And it seems like Cal McNear is doing the same exact thing in Houston. And if you allow a guy like that seems to be a leech and seems to be a guy that just sucks the life out of your organization, you're going to hit rock bottom before you ever. And he's going to be gone when you start to try to pick up the pieces, but it'll be too late. So it's a mess in Houston right now. That is for sure. You're absolutely 110% spot on. Barrett Downing, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my man. Barrett Downing writes, I'm hoping Alex will just walk away rather than test his luck. Great show as always, Lou. Respect. I really appreciate you, BD, as always. I hope you're right. But that, again, we know Alex Smith a little bit more now. We know Alex Smith, and we know what Alex is. We know how his mind is wired now. Does Alex Smith strike you as a guy that's going to retire? He got all these accolades. He just won Comeback Player of the Year. They put together this tremendous montage for him. You could tell he was a little bit, moved by it. All the adulation that came his way. I told you about the 60 Minutes piece. He's talked so many times about how you can't replicate, which is why Tom Brady won't walk away. He said, and guys who have walked away always say, if you can still play, because when you're done, you miss it. Because you can't replace the rush that you get, the camaraderie in the locker room, and all the things that come with this game. You can't replace it once it's gone. And Alex has talked about the guys in the locker room. He's talked about the adrenaline rush that he gets from stepping out on the football field and trying to win. He doesn't strike me as a guy that's ready to hang it up. It doesn't feel that way. I could be wrong, and in a month from now, we could hear from Alex Smith saying, I've had a chance to sit down with my wife and my family, and we thought it was best that I hang it up right now. That could happen. I don't see it happening. I hope you're right, but I just don't see it happening. Got another super chat. This one is from my man Double M Martin Matthews. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Martin Matthews. Greatly appreciate you. My man Double M writes, hey Louie, I might be alone with this, but other than Watson, Carr, and Mariota, what QB can/will beat out Heineke in a true quarterback competition if Washington is still having a competition? Again, that's why I wouldn't even waste my time. That was my point. is why I said I would either want to go with the young upside guy, because if you're investing in young upside guy, you're going to give him, just like Dwayne, you're going to give him every opportunity. And even though Ron himself said one of the biggest mistakes he made coming in is that he didn't open up the quarterback position to competition. He just pretty much gave it to Dwayne because he wanted to see what Dwayne could do. And there were some good things that Dwayne put on tape at the end of 19. We were all guilty. We all thought he was going to succeed, or I shouldn't say all. A lot of us thought he was going to succeed. Me being one of them. I was guilty. So I don't blame Rivera for that. But that's why I feel the way that I feel. Young upside or consistent established veteran. Because those are the only two that I think come in and win a competition. Anybody else, again, that's in the middle of that, Trubisky or Teddy Bridgewater or any of these middle of the road, everybody keeps, well, you should go get Tyrod Taylor. Why? 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 For what? It doesn't make any sense. If it's not Carr, if it's not Watson, if it's not, and even Mariota isn't a guarantee to beat out a guy that's been in this offense for 3+ years. And Kyle Allen, or Taylor Heineke, there's no guarantee in Mariota. He doesn't even belong in the same breath as a Carr or Watson, because those guys have done it consistently in this league. Mariota hasn't. But I would put him in the upside category. Even though a lot of people think they know what Mariota is, we thought we knew what Ryan Tannehill was. And then he showed us something else. So I think there's maybe another layer to Mariota's game that hasn't been peeled back yet. But yeah, that's my point. That's what I've been kind of conveying to you guys this offseason, is that there's no need to bring in a middle-of-the-road quarterback. All these names being tried out. What do you think about Ryan Fitzpatrick? For what? Why? Why? What are you going to win? When has he ever won anything? Either it's one of the two types that I've already mentioned, or you just roll with what you got. Let's see. Got another super chat. This one is from Metaphor. Thank you for your 4th super chat of the night, Metaphor. Greatly appreciate you. Metaphor writes, Lou, so what you're saying is you're in the car with Ron, and teams like outside your car trying to squeegee your window, side-eye looking at you, peeping Ron's plan. You're damn right. There's always somebody looking inside. While they're cleaning the window, they looking inside to see who's back there. Hey, isn't that dude on a 1-year deal? Yeah, he on a 1-year deal. His shit is up after this season. Hey, we gonna keep an eye on him. Yeah, it's always somebody eyeballing your stuff. Always remember that. You may think, don't nobody want Ryan Grant. Remember that? Nobody is going to want Ryan Grant. Ryan Grant got a very lucrative deal from the Baltimore Ravens. You remember that? When we looked up, we said, Ryan Grant, 3 years, $27 million. What the hell? Now, they rescinded that when they realized what everybody around the league was saying. You just gave Ryan Grant what? And they said, oh, he failed the physical. So we took the contract back. You dirty bastards. You dirty slide dog devils, you. Yeah. But for a split second, Baltimore was looking at Ryan Grant like, hey, man, I see your stuff. He ultimately went to Indianapolis. But somebody's always looking at your stuff. I've said this a million times, man. And you guys know it's true. Oh, you know it's true. Ooh, ooh, ooh. You know it's true. You know it's true. Somebody always looking at your stuff. I haven't lied to you yet. Ain't no half Steffin. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ain't no half Steffin writes, the Giants are our main nemesis going into next year. Who do we acquire and do differently in game to beat them in division twice in 2021? I can't agree wholeheartedly with you on the Giants being our main nemesis. This division is wide open. I think Philly's a mess. Doesn't mean that they won't perform because they still got talented football players. They're a mess. And I don't know if Nick Sirianni is the answer or not. I think they've taken a massive step back. But the Cowboys, they're interesting because we know the talent is there. I think Dak's going to be back. We know what they can do offensively. And they got Dan Quinn as their defensive coordinator now. That changes everything. Because with Mike Nolan there, I knew that defense was going to be a sieve. Because he's a clown. We already talked about the Tabasco in the eye fiasco that he had during the season. He's an ass clown. So I knew that defense was going to struggle. Well, they got rid of him. They bring in Dan Quinn, who, if nothing else, is a credible defensive coordinator in this league. And with the talent that they have on defense, Dallas could easily be 11-5 next year. Or 12-5 if they add that 17th game. I think they're going to do that. Whatever the case may be. I won't discount Dallas. I'm not too high on Philly right now. But the Giants are intriguing because they're going to draft a receiver more likely than not. I don't think they're going to F around this time around. They're going to get, it's almost like another draft pick because they're going to get Saquon Barkley back. And I think Daniel Jones is starting to gain confidence. The defense, without any superstar players, even though Leonard Williams, old Leonard, was playing his ass off. They don't really have a superstar. Jabril Peppers was damn good. So was the cornerback that they got from Carolina, James Bradbury. We don't need to do much if the Giants played the way that they played against us last year. We don't need to do other than stop turning the damn ball over. If you don't turn it over, what was it, 6 times? In 2 games against the Giants, we turned it over 6 times. You don't do that, you win both of those games. I can tell you this. The Giants are a team that I feel like if Daniel Jones is, in fact, the franchise guy they drafted him to be, could be the team in the division that could go on a little bit of a run if everything comes together. Now, there's a lot that has to happen, and I still don't foresee that happening with Dave Gettleman pulling the strings, but they're intriguing. But they're not the most talented team in this division. That distinction goes to Dallas. So, who do we acquire? Again, you only go after guys and chase other teams in your division when they're the Don Dadas, okay? When Kansas City is constantly beating the brain out of your skull and they're just bashing you over the head year after year with speed, and more speed. That's when you say, all right, enough of this. We have to beat Kansas City. That's when you start drafting to beat teams in your division. When you're in the AFC North and the Steelers are bludgeoning you to death. They didn't do it with the run game this year, but they're beating you up physically with their defense and they're running the ball, and we know the Ravens are going to run it, and they're physical with their defense. And now Cleveland all of a sudden can run it with the best of them. You have to find a way to play to the strengths of the rest of the division. So you got to find a way to counteract what everybody else in the division is doing. When in Rome, do as in Rome. Okay? So if the big thing in the division is you got to be able to run it in December, like in the AFC North, well, you better go out and get you a running back and an offensive line that allows you to run it in December and into January. If that's what everybody else is doing, or you better be able to stop it. One or the other, or both. Well, we don't really have that in our division. The only thing I can say is, if Philadelphia gets a number 1, they got a bunch of stuff out there at receiver. They don't have a number 1. I don't think Jalen Reagor's that guy. I think they made a mistake. I think they will admit that they made a mistake not drafting Justin Jefferson. I don't know what the hell they were thinking, not drafting Justin Jefferson. That's another point, and that's another discussion for another day. I've already made that point. I don't need to beleaguer that. But if they get their hands on Jalen Waddle or if they get their hands on Jamar Chase, now you're looking at a division where the Eagles got a bunch of receivers that are nasty. Then you look at the Cowboys and they got receivers that are nasty. And then if the Giants get themselves a true difference maker at receiver, because think about what they have. Sterling Shepard never seems to be healthy, but when he is, he's good. We can all admit that the Auburn wide receiver, Slayton, he's a beast. He's good. He's damn good. All right? They just need a number one. They get one, and all of a sudden you say, well, shit, they got some receivers now. I think the biggest thing that we have to look at in this division is either you better be able to get to the quarterback, which I feel like we can, or you better be able to cover on the back end because, Lord have mercy, it's about to be real in this division if both the Giants and Eagles decide, you know what, we need an upgraded receiver in the first round this year. The Eagles are sitting there at 6. And if they say we need a receiver and they take one, and the Giants are sitting there at 10 or 11 and they say, you know what, we can use one too. We'll take Waddle. And the Eagles say, hey, yeah, we'll take Jamar Chase. Or let's say the Dolphins decide to take Jamar Chase. They say, all right, cool, we'll take Devontae Smith. Then you look around at the division, you say, man, we better be able to cover. Shit's about to get real. So I would say right now, corner would be the thing that we have to make sure we shore up. The secondary as a whole, but in particular, cornerback. Got another super chat. This one is from my man B-Mac. Brendan McCloskey, thank you for the super chat. Double up. Greatly appreciate you, B-Mac. It might have been your third. I think it was your second. Either way, B-Mac writes, everyone is forgetting about the investigation that is still going on. What will happen if we lose draft picks? That you're right. That is something that is a distinct possibility. This is the thing. We don't know when this investigation is going to be completed. But once it meets its conclusion, I'd like to think that it's not going to be good. I sincerely hope, that the league finds it in some corner of their heart to have mercy on us fans. Okay? Because we don't deserve to have to go through any more punishment. Daniel Snyder owning this team for over 2 decades is more than enough punishment. We don't need any more. Please spare us. If you want to hurt somebody in this thing, hurt Daniel Snyder. Don't hurt the fans. Don't hurt the organization. Daniel Snyder is to blame for all of this shit. Hurt him. Fine him. Suspend him. Okay? Do that. Don't hurt us. Taking draft picks hurts us as fans. We don't deserve that. Fine Daniel Snyder. Suspend him games so he can't come to the suite and watch him in person. Do whatever you feel like you need to do to make you feel better about punishing him. Don't punish us. But you're right. They could wrap up this investigation in March. There could be, look, they just shut down the cheerleading division of the team. So, you know, that obviously they found some shit out in their investigation that wasn't too flattering for them to pretty much dismiss the cheerleading coach and shut down the entire operation. I think a lot of that stuff has been well documented as to how they've mistreated the cheerleaders and, you know, forced them to do some things they didn't want to do. And we had the New York Times piece. We had the Washington Post stuff. I think we know that there's been a lot of mistreatment of the cheerleaders, but there could be more that is unearthed by this investigation and Beth Wilkinson. And I can just tell you this, if they decide at the end of this thing they want to dock us, you know, don't come for our first or second day picks. If they say, hey, we're going to take a 5 from you, okay, hands up, you got us. If they say, all right, you got 2/3, give me one of those, oh, that's going to cripple me down to my knees. That's my Trent Williams. I worked hard for that. Don't take that from me. Now, if they come for anything more than a 3, at that point, you're like, Raj, bruh, why? How How you gonna act like that? How you gonna act like that? Come on, man. Like, I hope that this thing doesn't result in any loss of draft picks. But you're right. It could. It really could. JDSG. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, JDSG, who writes, Kendrick Bourne, not exciting, but dependable. Not exciting, not dependable, but a quality NFL wide receiver. And there are a lot of those guys available this offseason. He is not dependable. Ask any San Francisco 49ers fan, they will tell you he will drop the football. I can tell you firsthand because I've watched every 49ers game over the last 5 years. He drops plenty of footballs. If you remember our game, he had at least 2 or 3 drops in that game. So I wouldn't classify Kendrick Bourne as dependable. I would classify him as a quality NFL wide receiver. Probably not a starter, but if you have Kendrick Bourne as your 3rd or 4th option on your team, you're not in the worst shape. That's what I'll say. Got another super chat. This one is from Kevin Guvera. Thank you for the super chat, Kevin Guvera, who writes, joined late. Sorry if you answered this. Thoughts on trading up for Trey Lance? No, I did not answer that. And I did, however, say, and I didn't specify for what guy. I just said, if Washington trades up in this draft, it's for 2 positions. To me, right now, this is prior to free agency. This could change. Again, everything is subject to change with free agency, obviously, on the horizon. However, if you're looking at it from the standpoint of, hey, think we're going to re-sign Ronald Darby. Hey, think we're going to attack free agency aggressively and grab a receiver early on in that process, then to me, there are only 2 positions you go up for in this draft, and it's quarterback and tight end. As far as them going all the way up to get Trey Lance, you're going to have to go up really high. You got to go into the top 10 for Trey Lance. Like I said, 4 quarterbacks. We do this every year, and especially in these drafts where there are like 3 or 4 guys that have separated themselves from the rest of the pack. Generally, those guys are going in the top 10. Last year, what was it? Tua in the top 10, Herbert in the top 10. That might have been it. And Burrow, excuse me. 3 in the top 10. And we knew those guys were going to go quickly, right? This year, it's going to be 4, just like it was back in, I think it was 2017. Or I think it was 18, the 2018 draft with Darnold and Mayfield and Allen and Rosen. All 4 of those guys went in the top 10. I think Rosen ended up going 10th to round out that group. But we knew those guys were going to come off the board quickly. Lamar Jackson was the 5th. He went all the way at 32. We're going to see 4 guys go in the top 10. Now, in what order, other than Trevor Lawrence 1, I don't know what else to tell you. I think Zach Wilson is going to be the 2nd quarterback taken. We could get a surprise. Surprise! We like, the Ohio State kid instead. Surprise! Justin Fields is the 2nd pick in the draft to the Jets. It could happen. I don't think it will, but it could happen. So, going up for Trey Lance is going to require you to probably get not only in front of Carolina at 8, it's probably going to also require you to get in front of Detroit at 7. Unless Detroit, and I told you the draft is going to be interesting because we're going to find out just how dedicated Detroit is to Jared Goff. If Washington or some other team outside the top 10 picks up the phone when the Lions are on the clock and says, hey, there's one quarterback in the top 4 left and we want him here. And they say, hell no, we about to take him. Click up. That'll tell me all I need to know about how they really feel about Jared Goff. And then Jared Goff will know how they really feel about him. If they say, you know what? We got Jared Goff. We're cool. We'll come out of here. We'll take your 1st. We'll take your 2nd this year. And we'll take a 3rd. And we'll take your 2nd next year too. Okay. You come up. You get your guy. You're probably going to have to get up to number 7 to do it. But if Detroit is like, nah, we're going to take a quarterback, then that means you got to get to number 6 at Philadelphia. You think the Eagles are going to allow somebody like us to come up? Maybe. I've told you, the draft makes strange bedfellows with one another. It's the one time a year where sworn enemies decide to call a truce for 1 weekend in April. So it could happen. I don't see it happening. I don't see us trading up for Trey Lance. I don't. King of the North. Thank you for your third super chat of the night. Greatly appreciate you, my man. King of the North writes, you counting on Harmon being a contributor next year, or is he still unproven? AGG didn't show much at all. I am counting on Harmon coming in and being better than anything we trotted out on the field this year, not named Terry McLaurin. That's what I'm counting on. That's not hard to do. It's not hard to do. Cam Sims was good. He wasn't great. Steven Sims was a humongous disappointment. What was the guy? Dontrell Inman, by the time we got to the end of the season, he was, first of all, released. Then he wasn't active. Then he was getting one snap. Isaiah Wright, I don't like Isaiah Wright. You guys know that already. Isaiah Wright's cool. He was undrafted for a reason. So it's not hard. And like you said, AGG didn't bust a grape last year. So what I'm essentially telling you is our receivers left a lot to be desired. Do I think Kelvin Harmon can come in and produce at a higher level than all those guys did last year? You're damn right I think he can. Sure, absolutely. Why not? But I don't want to put him in that position. So yes, I do think he's going to be a contributor. I want him to be viewed as a third or fourth option on this team. Because they've got a decision to make. And right now, the decision seems to be pretty easy. Whether to bring Cam Sims back or not. He's a restricted free agent. So, again, somebody's probably eyeballing our stuff, looking at him and saying, hey, I see this guy being, a solid third option. We'll kick a little bread your way, but we get to match that. We can tender him, and we can say, hey, if you want to sign him, we get a second-round pick. We can tender him at a second-round level. You know what I mean? Which, if you do that, you have to pay him X amount of dollars. But, again, who's giving you a second-round pick for Cam Sims? I doubt they would tender him at a second-round level. Bottom line is, it's not going to cost a ton of money to bring Cam Sims back. You bring back Harmon, Harmon's coming back, I should say. AGG's coming back. You're going to sign a receiver. You got Terry McLaurin. That's 5 guys right there. I don't know how many they're keeping on the roster. But the thing that is frustrating is that all of these dudes look the same. Harmon's 6'2", 215, not a burner. Cam Sims is 6'4", 6'5", 220, not a burner. AGG is 6'3", 6'4", not a burner. 215, 220, not a burner. Like, none of these guys are shifty. None of them are quick. None of them are fast. They all look the same. So when you think about this number 2 guy, you want him to have a little something different, which is why, I'm looking at Allen Robinson and I'm like, you kind of look like the rest of these dudes. 6'2", 210, not a burner. Which is why Curtis Samuel probably makes a ton of sense. And I think ultimately that's who we're going to get. I'm resigned to the fact that he's going to be in Washington, and that's okay at this point. I've already reconciled that in my brain. But if you told me that's why I wanted John Ross too. Like, don't stop at Curtis Samuel. John Ross isn't going to cost you a bunch of money. It's a 1-year deal. Sign both of them. Now you really up the speed on this team. And you can still, I think if you sign 2 guys like that, you can keep 6 receivers. You can keep 6 receivers. The 3 guys I just mentioned, Cam Sims, Kelvin Harmon, and AGG. And then you got your other 3 guys, the 2 free agent signings and Terry McLaurin. You can still keep 6 guys. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. We'll see. But I do see Harmon being a contributor. And AGG didn't do anything last year. He was hurt. There was no offseason. It was a rough year to be a rookie and be injured. Same thing with Sadiq Charles. It's a rough season to be injured. Both of them were injured in training camp. There was no preseason. Both of them were injured during the season. They didn't get a lot of reps. It's tough when you're a rookie and there's no OTAs, no minis, a limited training camp, and you're hurt. I expect both of those guys to be better. I really do. Got another super chat. This one is from Fat American. Thank you for the super chat, Fat American. Greatly appreciate you, Fat American writes. Louie T for VP of Player Personnel. They would laugh me out of the building, man. Like, what do you know? You don't know a damn thing. I'd love to have it. They wouldn't even let Kyle Smith stay. If Kyle can't stay, you know damn right they wouldn't let me in the building. Sonny Rawson, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Sonny Rawson writes, hey Lou, always a pleasure. Likewise. Love your insight. I agree with your list. Clever what you say at the end. Veteran wide receiver. Draft a middle linebacker at 19. At quarterback, we really have no clue, but I know I trust Ron like you. Should be fun. I agree. Don't really know where this thing is heading at quarterback, but I've subscribed to Ron's plan the entire time. I told you I got my safety belt on. The airbag in front of me works. The airbag on the side of me works. I feel really good. Should this thing crash and not end well, I will be able to get out and walk away from this thing and still have all of my limbs and everything else intact. Might be a couple of scratches, a couple of bumps and bruises. Won't be anything different than when Mike Shanahan was here. We won the division in 2012 and we thought this thing was going in the right direction. And then we crashed and it was an epic a single car crash into a tree that had been there for 60 years. Wasn't going to move. Ran right into the tree. Like we didn't see it. But I had my safety belt on. I had the airbag in front of me work. The one on the side of me worked. And I was able to get out. I was limping for a little while. Took a while to bounce back. But I rehabbed and I was cool. And so I trust Ron. I don't know what we're going to do at quarterback. I don't know what we're going to do at middle linebacker. I would prefer that if we stood pat at 19, you take a linebacker because I think that position's actually going to be there. I don't think that the Penn State linebacker is going to be there, but I think Xavier Collins will be there out of Tulsa. I haven't watched him. I've only heard people talk about him. But if he's as good as people say he is, and I have no reason to doubt people, then let's take him. But like I said, I anticipate us getting a vet in free agency at the receiver position. I anticipate us attacking maybe one or two more positions in free agency, like a blocking tight end. I don't think they're going to go over aggressive for a tight end because they didn't do it last year when we had nothing at tight end. Nada. Zilch. Zip. Zero. Stingy with De Niro. They went out and got Logan Thomas and said, y'all are going to be satisfied with this. Trust me. And they were right. At the time, we were like, what the hell is this? I don't think they're going to do anything at tight end, but I do think they're going to do something at wide receiver. But thank you for the super chat, Sonny Rawson. Really appreciate you. Got another super chat. This one is from NS Overtime. Thank you for the super chat. NS Overtime, who writes, at pick 19, Washington football team selects Micah Parsons. How do you feel? That's the Penn State linebacker I was just referencing that won't be around at 19. I would be elated, to say the least. You know how I felt on draft night when we took Daron Payne? I'd be the opposite of that. It's not going to happen, though. He won't be there at 19. For all of the guys that I think are going to come off the board, someone would have already popped the top at the linebacker position, and he's going to be the first one. This isn't a situation like last year where we all assumed that the LSU kid was going to go first that ultimately went to Baltimore at the end of the first round. And instead, the Chargers popped the top on the linebacker position. It was like, nah, we like the Oklahoma kid. So we're going to take him instead. And I was like, oh, I thought Patrick Queen was going to come off the board first. Baltimore was like, don't mind if I do at 27. So that was one of those, it could go either way. What do you value more? I mean, the Oklahoma linebacker was faster, and he was more instinctual, and he had more tape, and he was a tremendous leader. Everything you could want in a guy. So they took him. Patrick Queen, to me, had more upside, but it was a lot less tape, and he was a guy that you felt like was going to need some time, a little bit of time. I don't think that's the case in this draft. I don't think it's a debate on who's going to come off the board first. Micah Parsons is coming off the board first at linebacker, and it'll be before, I think, Owusu Koromora. I think it'll be before Xavier Collins. I think at 19, Micah Parsons will be gone. But stranger things have happened. Stranger things have happened. I would be elated. That would be how I would feel. Got another super chat. This one is from NS Overtime as well. Double up. Thank you for the super chat. NS Overtime, who writes, Chris Olavey, solid number 2 or no? Double up, baby. LOL. Chris Olavey, I told you, would be the perfect number 2 wide receiver, except he decided to go back to school. All right. So he's not in this draft. Chris Olavey elected to go back to Ohio State. Maybe he feels like he can improve his draft stock. Maybe he felt like, man, this is a really deep crop of wide receivers that I don't stand a chance of being a number 1 first round pick in. So maybe I go back to school. Wide receiver pool isn't as deep next year, and I may be able to elevate my draft stock to a first round wide receiver. Maybe that was his thought process. He was going to be a second round pick this year. So I don't know how much more he's going to be able to improve his draft stock. I think most of us feel like we know who he is as a wide receiver. Don't think much is going to change between now and next season, but he decided to go back to school. It's his right to do that. But he's not in the draft anymore. I think he is a number 2 receiver and a damn good one, potentially at the next level. Got another super chat. This one is from Taqui L. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Taqui L writes, Kadarius Toney greater than Curtis Samuel. Thoughts? No, I don't think that's true. Now, I could be wrong. I told you, to me, they're the same guy. And I got pushed back about that I'm wrong. And I've heard multiple people say I'm wrong about this. I may be wrong. And I'm not going to lie to you. I haven't watched a ton of Kadarius Toney yet. I've only can tell you what I watched watching Florida Gators football. Now, I've watched a ton of Florida Gators football. So I've seen quite a bit of Kadarius Toney. But I'm going to watch the film. But I can tell you, he's not a natural hands catcher. Okay? He doesn't have natural hands. I told you I think he's an athlete. That's what Curtis Samuel was coming into the league. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names, which Curtis Samuel has. However, Samuel is a little bit more advanced because he's been in the league 4 years now. He's carved out a niche for himself. We know that what you can do with him is limitless. You can stick him in the backfield. You can throw him the football underneath. You can run him on a slant. You can run him vertically on a seam ball. You can do a lot of things with Curtis Samuel. I'm pretty sure you can do all those things with Kadarius Toney, but he hasn't established himself as a guy that can consistently produce for you in multiple avenues in this league like Curtis Samuel has. So maybe he ultimately comes into the league and proves that he is, in fact, better than Curtis Samuel. But I can tell you this, Washington is not looking for another young wide receiver. We got a plethora of them on the roster. We're littered up and down. Our roster is literally littered with nothing but young wide receivers, which is why they wanted Amari Cooper so bad last season, which is why I think they're going to want a veteran wide receiver again this offseason very badly. So I don't anticipate them wanting a guy like Kadarius Toney at 19. I don't think they're going to be looking at receiver because they would have already addressed it by the time we get to the draft. But I'm telling you right now, Kadarius Toney has a chance to be good because of his skill set if he lands in the right place. If he lands somewhere where they don't understand what he is as a football player and how to maximize him, then, 4 or 5 years from now, he'll be on the free agent market and somebody will be signing him on a low risk, high reward type of contract, similar to John Ross. So we'll see what happens. Got another super chat. This one is from Niles T. Thank you for the super chat, Niles T. Greatly appreciate you. My man Niles T writes, Super Bowl showed me we need a middle linebacker desperately. Has to be first round for me unless they love a quarterback in the draft. Roll the dice with Heine before I trade for Sam. I stated this very, very clearly the night of the Super Bowl. As we wrapped that thing up, one of the first things I said out of my mouth was how good Devin White was and how badly we needed one of those. But remember, I said the same thing last year in the Super Bowl when I watched the BYU linebacker and how well he was playing. That whole season, I said, man, I would love to get my hands on one of those types of guys. Fred Warner. I said, man, and Fred Warner is not even close to Devin White. But Fred Warner he's on the same level to me as Darius Leonard. Like, Devin White is next level shit at linebacker. But at the level below him is Darius Leonard and it's Fred Warner and guys like that. And I'm like, yo, I don't even need a Devin White because those are hard to come by. You want one of them, that's top 5 stuff. Like Chase Young, that's top 5 stuff if you want a Devin White. But I'll gladly take a Fred Warner. I gladly take a Darius Leonard. Let me get one of them. Let me get one of them. And I'm straight. I'm straight. So, yeah. I think middle linebacker, if you could get one of those types, it changes the game drastically. And it's not even up for debate. And I hear you on Sam Darnold. I told you, I would be cool with rolling to camp with Kyle Allen and Taylor Heineke duking it out in a quarterback battle this offseason. I'd be cool with that, man. I really would. I got no problems with that because if the defense is what I think they're going to be, if we make the necessary adjustments to it, add a guy here, you get year 2 of Chase, you get year 3 of Montez, you get year 4 of Daron Payne, or year 3, of Daron Payne. I like where this is going, man. You get Matt Ioannidis back, who was a big-time miss for this defense. You get Cole Holcomb a year more comfortable in Jack Del Rio's system. And remember, everybody up front, Allen and Payne and Ioannidis when he played the first 2 weeks, all of this was new for all of them. Remember Ron talking about guys not buying in to what they were teaching them to do? Remember how much the defensive line loved Jim Tom. They would talk about Jim Tom all the time. Oh, my God, we love Jim Tom. Well, Jim Tom taught them how to do things this way. Ron said, no, we're going to do it this way. And there was pushback. They were going back and forth early on in the season. And Ron said, it took us a while to get them to buy in. Well, they've bought in now. So now you get year 2 of all of these guys comfortable in the same defensive scheme that they know works now. So they're not questioning what Sam Mills, their defensive line coach, is asking them to do. They're not questioning what Ron Rivera is asking them to do. They're not questioning what Jack Del Rio is asking them to do. They're just going and playing ball now. They don't have to think. They can just go ball now. Chase Young's going to be stronger. He's going to have a different approach to the game than his rookie season. Montez Sweat is going to continue to grow. This defense has a chance. And if you just tell me, hey, I got a guy that's comfortable in the offensive scheme, knows it like the back of his hand, that can move around and extend plays when things break down, and he can chuck it down the field. We don't have to be subjected to 15 checkdowns a game. Sign me up. I'd like to see it. So I'm cool with Heine or Allen getting a run this year. But if they decided to trade for Sam, I'm intrigued as long as it's not 19. I'm all good. I'm with it. Got another super chat. This one is from Fat American. Thank you for doubling up. Double up. Greatly appreciate you, Fat American, who writes, not a big fan of Darnold. But maybe I'm missing his potential. I don't know. It just seems like it would be a blah signing. You're not wrong. You're not wrong for feeling that way. I wasn't a massive Sam Darnold fan coming out of SC. I'm not a massive Sam Darnold fan now, but I do acknowledge there's talent there. He showed me some things over his, 3-year stretch in the NFL to this point. He showed me some things. Not all of it great, but first of all, he showed me mental toughness. To be able to deal with the shit that goes on in New York, to deal with a coach that's trying to embarrass you at every turn, and just do it with a smile on your face and lead those guys, and they're not giving you a lot of talent to lead, but when he did have talent, when he did have Robbie Anderson, when he did have Jamison Crowder and all those guys on the same team, and Herndon playing at a high level at the tight end position, they won like 5 out of their final 6 games in 2019. He's not trash. And in 2020, he showed me, hey, I even got some wheels. I came equipped with some wheels. I was like, oh, man. I didn't know that came in a box. He said, yeah, no assembly necessary. No assembly required. I can run. I didn't know that. Okay, thanks for sharing that. So he can do some things. But as I mentioned, there are some things that trouble you. The turnovers were a problem at SC. They've been a problem in the league. That's problematic for me. That's why I'm not giving up a first-round pick, because I'm not sure he can do this. But there is enough talent there that suggests that he may be able to do this if he gets a clean start somewhere new that believes in him and gives him the weapons necessary to succeed, which if he comes here, he's going to have weapons. Because we already got some. We don't have enough. But by the time we're done this offseason, we'll have plenty. Trust me. We'll have plenty. But I understand where you're coming from. You have every reason and every right to feel like it would be a blah trade if we were to acquire him. I get it. Got another super chat. This one is from Sonny Rawson. Thank you for the super chat, Sonny Rawson. Is this your second one? It feels like your second one. We're just going to double up anyway. Double up. I'm not sure. Feel like I said your name already tonight. Not sure if I did, but we're going to double up anyway. Appreciate you, Sonny, who writes, I would rather trade up for a middle linebacker than a tight end. I understand where you're coming from there. I do. I think a dominant tight end changes our offense a little bit more dynamically than a game-changing linebacker changes this defense. Now, I could be wrong, because if Micah Parsons or Xavier Collins is a stud, if they're just Fred Warner or Darius Leonard, I might have to walk that statement back. I haven't watched either of those guys enough to be able to say definitively. I've watched enough of Kyle Pitts to know. You insert Kyle Pitts into this offense, it changes things, okay? Very, very drastically, because he's not just a pass catcher. He can do a number of different things. But even if we just said he can't do anything else but catch, it ain't many linebackers in the league running with him. Ain't too many safeties going to be in his hip pocket. So he drastically changes this offense if you get a Kyle Pitts. getting a linebacker, I've already stated, would be, to me, the thing that pushes this defense over the top. And I'm all about making our strengths stronger, which is why I want to continue to build this defense. But we need more help on offense than we do defense. We're a lot closer on defense than we are offense. Getting a guy like Kyle Pitts would bring the offense a lot closer to where the defense is. It's not going to put them there, but it definitely closes the gap. Feels like the defense is all the way up here and the offense is all the way down here, and there's this big gap. And until you close that gap considerably to where the defense doesn't have to carry us all the damn time, like, how many times can you say, well, we can't give up more than 23 or we're going to lose? That's bullshit. In a league where teams are routinely scoring up over 30, you can't score more than 23? And if the defense gives up more than that, you lose? Well, you're not going to win very many games in this league. Because that's who we were this year. If the defense couldn't hold the opposition to 20 or less, we were going to lose because we weren't going to score more than 23. So I get what you're saying. And if they traded up for a linebacker, I wouldn't have any problems with it. They traded up for a middle linebacker. And again, if they traded up for any middle linebacker, he's going to be elite. He's going to be elite. And just like the example I gave you earlier, that Micah Parsons should be a top 10 pick. Probably still will be a top 10 pick. But let's just go off the off chance that he's not. Because as we know, 4 quarterbacks are going in the top 10. At least 2 tackles. Maybe not 3. I might have been a little bit over aggressive on the number of tackles, but you could easily see 3 go. Let's just say 2 goes. Let's say 2 receivers go in the top 10. That's 8 players right there. A corner goes. That's 9. I feel like I'm missing a position. I don't think any defensive ends are going in the top, which is crazy because usually every year there's at least one. I don't think there's any one defensive end. You know, the Michigan guy seems to be building a little bit of steam. Again, I haven't watched him, can't really speak to what he can do. But let's just say that there's another position that sneaks in there. And we get to the top 10, outside of the top 10, and no linebacker's been taken. Micah Parsons is still on the board. And let's say we get to, 11 and another receiver, Waddle, comes off the board. And then we get to 12 and we get another offensive tackle taken. And now we're sitting there at 13 and we're looking and we're 6 picks away and we're saying, Micah Parsons is still here. What the F? We had a number 6 overall grade on this guy and we're at 13 and he's still on the board. Let's go get him now. I wouldn't have a problem with it. I wouldn't have a problem with it at all. Let's say Pitts goes at, I said I was trying to think of another. Let's say Pitts goes at 10, and I don't know who's at these numbers. I'm just throwing out random names. And you get to the, we start getting closer and closer and they decide, you know what? Let's go get him. Makes a ton of sense to me. I wouldn't have any problems with it. So I get where you're coming from with that. I just don't know if that's what's going to take place or not. But I wouldn't have a problem with it whatsoever. Got another super chat. This one is from NS Overtime. Thank you for tripling up. Greatly appreciate you. NS Overtime, who writes, thoughts on Reuben Foster, the hitman, if healthy. That's another reason why I'm not sure that they're going to go all in for linebacker. Because they may, and only we will know. Only they will know how they truly feel about Reuben Foster. I don't think they're tying their future to Reuben Foster at the middle linebacker. Because you could easily take Reuben Foster and make him a weak side backer. They could easily replace KPL with Reuben Foster next year. Reuben Foster doesn't have to play middle linebacker. He can play off the ball. So, because they already showed us Cole Holcomb is their strong side backer. They love him at strong side backer. KPL isn't under contract next season. So, he's a free agent and he may not be brought back. And they could say, you know what? Instead of bringing back KPL on a 1-year deal, we'll bring back Reuben Foster on a one-year deal and see what he's talking about. But we're not going to play him at middle backer because we're going to draft one. We're going to play Reuben Foster at weak side backer, at will. Okay. You can't bank on Reuben Foster being back to what he once was. And as Washington fans, you guys should know enough and have been through this enough to know that until a guy does it in a Washington uniform, you shouldn't be banking on a guy coming in and doing anything either. We've been down this road multiple times before. So I like the idea of Reuben Foster being healthy, but I'm not sold on Reuben Foster staying healthy, even if he gets back to being healthy. So I'd love to see him back here on a one-year deal to prove it. Let's see. Metaphor. 5th super chat of the night. Greatly appreciate you. Metaphor writes, if Darnold's seeing ghosts in New England, what's he gonna see when he said, what's he gonna do when he sees the skeletons in Snyder's closet? Let's just hope he never sees those. Let's just hope he never sees those. Because I can tell you right now, the skeletons in Snyder's closet are a lot more terrifying and spooky, like the shit you see in a movie, than the ghosts he was seeing in New England on a Monday night. So let's hope he never opens that closet and is exposed to the skeletons. Because there's a lot of quarterback skeletons in that closet. I'd hate to add him to the list. Russell Keaton, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Russell Keaton writes, I already love this offseason. Dak is trolling, giving me hope right now, following us on IG, and Russell Wilson looks disgruntled. I know, far-fetched, but yeah, don't do yourself like that. All you're doing is getting yourself juiced up, hyped up to be let down. Don't get hyped up to get let down. Don't do that. All right? Don't do yourself like that. You deserve better. As a Washington fan that has been tortured for over 2 decades, you deserve better than that. Dak isn't leaving Dallas, and he's not in control of leaving Dallas either. You know, it'd be one thing if Dallas already said, or he signed the franchise tag last year in good faith with Dallas, where he pretty much said, if I sign this, you guys have to promise me you won't franchise me next year. And they said, yeah, cool. Sure thing, Dak. That's not what they said last year. They're going to franchise tag him, or they're going to reach a long-term deal with Dak Prescott. And all of this stuff, remember, at the end of the day, and you hear players say this all the time, and they're right, it's a business. Always remember that. So when you hear a player pissed off, like Deshaun Watson, for instance, who takes and scrubs his entire IG of anything related to the Houston Texans, cleans and scrubs his bio and everything. It's a move on the board. You are a chess piece, and you've got to be thinking 2 moves ahead as a businessman. And that's what you are. You're an entity. You yourself are a business entity, and you've got to be thinking 2 steps ahead. And in the day and age that we live in, with social media playing such an integral part in how these businesses move, these players, you have to use social media to your advantage. This is a small part of this equation and a very minute piece of this puzzle. However, Deshaun scrubbing his IG and his Twitter of anything related to the Texans, and Dak following Washington, all of these moves are just business moves. They're business decisions. Put the pressure on Dallas to know that, hey, I will leave. I want to be here, but I will leave. Don't think that just because of all of the things that you have afforded me because of what it means to be the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. And it means a hell of a lot. Ask Dak Prescott. Ask him about the Dannon commercial that he has. Ask him about the sleep mattress commercial. Ask him about all the endorsements off the field he has. He doesn't have that if he's the starting quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He doesn't have that if he's the starting quarterback of the Detroit Lions. How many commercials you see Matthew Stafford in? I rest my case. There's something to be said about being the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. It means something. It's the reason Tony Romo's walking around pawning off Skechers on us right now. He ain't win a goddamn thing in this league. But it means something to be the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. But I also need you to know that if you want to play games with me, I will leave. I really appreciate what you've done for me. And I want to be here. But don't get it twisted. Just like you got a business to run, I got a business to run. And I will leave. That's all him following Washington on IG is telling Dallas. And not only will I leave, I'll go straight to a divisional foe. You better cough up the dough. You already know. That's all this is. Don't get excited. He's not coming to Washington. Got another super chat. This one is from Rob U. What's going on, Rob? Been waiting on you, buddy. Rob U. Appreciate you. Rob U, who writes, what up, Lou? Late to the party. If Trey Lance makes it to 11, do you see a possibility of trading up to get ahead of San Francisco? If Trey Lance gets to 11, there will be a lot of action. If Trey Lance gets past Carolina at 8, I don't think he makes it out of the top 10. How he makes it past Carolina, if he's the last of the big four, maybe they don't love him. Maybe Carolina's like, we want 1 of 3 guys. Fields, Lawrence, Wilson. We want nothing to do with Trey Lance. I don't think that's what they're saying, but they could be saying that. Detroit could be saying the same thing. We really don't love Trey Lance. Well, somebody else will love him. And I think somebody else will come up into the top 10 to get him. You know, with these quarterbacks, they don't fall far, man. Generally, they don't fall out of the top 10. Generally speaking. After misses on Mahomes and Watson outside of the top 10, I think they were right on the fringe and outside of the top 10. After teams missed on those guys, you're not going to get many guys getting passed up in the top 10. You're just not. So, but to go with your point, your scenario of Trey Lance getting to 11. Sure. If again, how do they feel about Trey Lance? Do they love Trey Lance? Because you got to love a guy to go up and get him. Because of what it's going to take. You got to love a guy. If they love Trey Lance, yeah, I could see them doing that. For sure. Especially if they didn't see Trey Lance getting out of the top 10. And again, I've brought this scenario up multiple times tonight. It's the same thing. It doesn't change. Just change out the player that they're going up for. I've already talked about it with tight end and Kyle Pitts. I've already talked about it at linebacker with Parsons, Micah Parsons. And it's the same thing at quarterback. Those are the 3 positions really that they would trade up for, I believe. But I've narrowed it down to 2. If free agency goes the way that I think, it's either tight end or quarterback. It could be linebacker. But again, insert whatever guy you feel like. And again, if I'm Rivera, there's a number, a magic number or position, a team that I've already been in communication with. And let's say that team is sitting there at 11, and I don't know who is the 11th pick in the draft. But let's just throw out a random name. Let's say it's the Giants at 11. And you've already been in Ron Rivera and Marty Herney and Dave Gettleman all know each other. Okay, they probably have really good relationships. So if you're Rivera, you've already been in talks with Dave Gettleman. You've been on the phone with him for the last 3 or so picks. After every pick is made and that guy gets closer to that pick, you say, hey, look, if Trey Lance gets to you at 11, I'll give you XYZ to get up there to get him. So they already know what it is. Like, you got to have a place in mind. You don't want to go too high to go get a guy because you're going to overpay. But if they fall right into your wheelhouse and you've already got a set out amount of capital that you're willing to give up, you make the deal. And I could see that happening if a guy like Trey Lance gets to 11. We'll see what happens, though. Rob, you. Double up. Greatly appreciate you. Rob, you, as always. My man Rob writes, even though I like DeShazer Everett, do you think we make a run at Malik Hooker? I've heard someone bring this up. It might have even been you. Somebody else brought it to my attention on Twitter. And I said, that's a low risk, high reward type of proposition. One that I would be intrigued by. Malik Hooker was a top 10 draft pick. He was a guy that we looked at as this, ridiculous, freakish athlete at the safety position. I've watched this guy make some tremendous plays in this league, but health has been a massive concern for him. Has not been able to stay healthy. And I would like to think that his play has been affected by it. I can't tell you if Malik Hooker, when he is healthy, has been any good for the Indianapolis Colts. I can just tell you what he was coming out of Ohio State. And he was one of the most heralded safeties coming out of the Big Ten in quite some time. So I really think that that's a guy that you take a look at. And if nothing else, he smells, he feels like another one of these one-year prove-it deals that we just signed a bunch of guys to this past year. Will that come to fruition? I don't know, but I wouldn't mind kicking those tires. I really wouldn't. And I like DeShazer. I don't love DeShazer. I would love DeShazer if I thought he could stay healthy. I don't think he can. So I like DeShazer. I'm not married to DeShazer. I'd love to take a look at Malik Hooker and kick those tires. Why not? And it won't cost you a bunch either to do it. So I wouldn't have a problem with doing that at all. Thank you for tripling up, Rob U. Greatly appreciate you. As always, Rob U writes, sign William Jackson or re-sign Ronald Darby. I like William Jackson. I think it's going to cost you more to re-sign William Jackson than it would to re-sign Ronald Darby. That's an interesting dynamic, but here's the thing. Ronald Darby has proved it on this team with this roster, with guys that have seen him work day in, day out. He's got an injury history. He could have just stayed healthy for his contract year, and then he could go back to being banged up next year for all I know. But you want to pay guys that the guys in the locker room saw do it and know why you're paying him. They don't know William Jackson from Adam or Eve. And they're like, oh, you going to break this dude off, but it's guys in this locker room that's looking to get paid? How'd that work? And when it comes time to pay those other guys, they're looking at William Jackson saying, well, you broke him off X amount of dollars. Where my money at? So, I mean, that shouldn't be the determining factor. I mean, because you're going to bring in guys like at the receiver position. They may bring in Allen Robinson on a 5-year, $100 million deal. I don't think it's going to be that long of a deal. It'll probably be more like 3 years, $62 million or something like that. But it's going to be in that $20 million neighborhood if you get Allen Robinson this offseason. And Terry's looking at that contract and saying, okay, just know when my shit's up, I need my shit to look something like that too. And that's the risk you run when you bring guys from outside of the building and you pay them top of the market money and you still got other guys that need to get paid. It's specifically at that position. That doesn't make it any better. It'd be one thing if you bring in William Jackson, sign him to a big deal, but you don't have any other corners looking to get paid. You say, hey, this is a different position, man. But I can tell you, I remember this. like it was yesterday when Washington brought in Adam Archuleta and they refused to sign Ryan Clark, and everybody in the locker room loved and respected Ryan Clark, including Sean Taylor, who wanted Ryan Clark back. He was like his best friend. Loved Ryan Clark. That was his road dog. And every guy in the locker room took notice that you didn't want to re-sign Ryan Clark. You didn't want to re-sign Antonio Pierce. You want to go out and you want to sign Jeremiah Trotter and all these bums. You don't want to sign our stuff. You so damn impressed by the shiny object out there. This was young Daniel Snyder that wanted to go and fire up Redskins 1. To go get every big name free agent out there. Never wanted to re-sign the guys that had built this thing. And I'm not saying we're going back to that because it's a new day in Washington. It's Ron's plan, and we got these new guys in here. So I don't think that shit is going on anymore. But that doesn't change the human element of this thing. If I'm in the locker room and I've been busting my ass for the last 3 years and I look up and you bring this new dude in here and he's making 10 times what I make, just know when my contract's up, I'm looking at old boy over there and I'm saying, hey, you remember when you gave him that contract? Yeah, I'm looking for something like that too. Let me get one of them. So be careful with that. Ronald did it in this locker room. They watched Ronald do it. They know Ronald deserves to be paid. You bring William Jackson in here. He ain't done shit in a Washington uniform, but you want to come in here and bless him with a $15 million per year contract. Hey, guys going to be happy for him because it's a brotherhood in the league. Hey, get your money, man. It's better if you get paid so that the rest of us can get paid. The more you get paid, the more the next man gets paid. But in that same respect, if he getting his, I need to get mine. So I say you re-sign Ronald Darby. And I thought Darby, again, he was the most consistent corner we had last year. So I like Ronald Darby a lot, personally. Anyway, I digress. Got another super chat. This one is from Metaphor. Thank you for your 6th super chat of the night. Greatly appreciate you, windshield wiping. Metaphor, who writes, running back Najee Harris out of Bama, if available in the 2nd round. They're not going to do that. They don't need a logjam at running back. Now, that dude is ridiculously talented. Stupid talented. You could do a lot of things with Najee Harris out of the backfield. But, I mean, if you sign Najee Harris, now all of a sudden you got a cluster F at running back. Like, it's unnecessary. And I don't think they're looking to spend that kind of draft capital on that position. It's not a necessity. You can get you a quality back in the 4th, 5th round if you're Washington and have him be exactly what you need him to be in the grand scheme of things. You draft Najee Harris, it feels like when the Titans drafted Derrick Henry and they had DeMarco Murray already, but the difference is DeMarco Murray was on his 2nd contract and he was like 2-3 years away from being out of the league. We just drafted a dude last year in the 3rd round in Antonio Gibson that ain't going nowhere no time soon. They love J.D. McKissick. They just signed him and I don't see J.D. going anywhere. Like, I just don't think it's a fit for us right now. Doesn't make a ton of sense. But you could do a lot of things with Najee Harris. I just don't think he's a fit here, necessarily with what we've got going on right now. Trust me, I'd take him in a heartbeat. Got another super chat. This one is from Andre Castle. Thank you for the super chat, Andre Castle, who writes, free safety Simmons from Denver is what we need. I love Justin Simmons. I told you he's my favorite safety or one of my favorite safeties in the league. But Justin Simmons comes with a price tag. And after you've already spent, $84 million over 6 years on Landon Collins, I get it. He's not going to see $84 million, but still paying a hell of a lot of money to one safety. You spent $40 million over 4 years last year for Kendall Fuller. You're going to have to spend money whether you bring back Darby or not, unless you draft a youngin. You're going to have to spend some money at the cornerback position. You also want to invest at safety? I don't see them doing it. And I laid that out earlier in the show, but I just go back to Ron Rivera's track record in Carolina and Marty Herney in Carolina. They never really ever invested at safety. It was always a stopgap. It was Mike Mitchell. It was Mike Adams. It was Trey Boston, who they drafted, let go, and then brought back. It was my man from the 49ers, Eric Reed. It was never, hey, we about to go out and sign this dude to a 5-year, $40 million deal to come be our new free safety. It was never that. It's always been 1-2 year stopgap here. He goes, gets a contract somewhere else, bring in a new stopgap, and just continue to plug it that way. I don't see them spending big money on the safety position. You saw what they got out of Cameron Curl? They feel like they can do that again. I can draft me a 6th-round dude and get, some success out of him. I don't need to invest in safety like Justin Simmons. So I don't see them doing that. I love Justin Simmons. I think he's exactly what the doctor ordered for this defense. I just don't see them investing in a safety like that. Sonny Rawson, thank you for tripling up or doubling up. We're going to go with the triple up. Really appreciate you. My man Sonny writes, do you see us looking to get out of the Landon Collins contract next offseason with the emergence of Cam Curl? It all depends. We feel this way now. A lot of you do. I don't want Landon gone right now. He was trying to, this is what I felt. After the season that we had his first year here in 2019, where he literally had to step up and do everything. We were terrible on defense, and it wasn't enough. Even though you bring in a brand new staff and it's a new scheme and everything's different, he still was carrying a weight of 29 on his shoulders. Like, man, I got to live up to this contract. I got to go out and make plays. This defense evolved when he was out. He no longer has to try to play outside of the scheme and make plays to make this defense better. He just needs to do his job. And I think he's good at that. And so I think that he could come back and have a massive year next year. Remember, if he comes back and plays well, we won't be singing the same tune. Let's get out of Landon's contract. If he balls next year, it's not Landon's job to worry about Cam Curl. It's the coaching staff's job to worry about how to get all this talent on the field. If you love Cam Curl so much, if you love Landon Collins, figure it out. Get your best 11 on the field. There are ways to do it. It doesn't have to come at the expense of another guy. This isn't the quarterback position where only one can play. You can put multiple guys on the field at once. Landon can still play, have an impact, so can Cam Curl. They can coexist. Before the injury, Cam Curl was playing, so was Landon Collins. So I would like to see if Landon can bounce back. If he can't, then yeah, we could have that discussion about potentially trying to get out of the Landon Collins business next offseason. If you guys haven't already done so, I beg you, I urge you, I implore you to subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Like Tuesday nights, we don't do Tuesday nights here on the Louie T Network, but this is a weird week because I got travel plans, so everything got bumped up. So you had the notification bell on, so that's why you know I'm live. Make sure that you don't miss out. Somebody else out there watching tonight that just got here, welcome. Turn on that notification bell and also hit that like button if you haven't already done so. 430 of you are out there, only 159 likes. Let's get that up to 200, man. We can do that. I really appreciate y'all. Thank you. Let's see. Got another super chat. This next one is from my man Martin Matthews. Thank you for tripling up. Double M. Greatly appreciate you as always. Martin Matthews, who writes, "Hey Louie, I might be alone with this. Fuller is a quicker Norman at cornerback, and I believe PF has Moreland ranked pretty high as a slot corner, what the hell do we do with Fuller? You know how I feel about PFF. Not a massive fan. Jimmy Moreland, I don't think is terrible at slot corner, but I don't think he's as instinctual as I would like him to be. Maybe he continues to grow. Remember, he wasn't a nickel in college. So I think he's continuing to make that transition. I need Jimmy. I need the Jimmy we got early in the season against Philadelphia. But that was out wide. That wasn't nickel Jimmy. That was boundary Jimmy. I don't know if boundary Jimmy is all that great or not. All I know is we need upgrades in the secondary. And it may not come this season, this offseason. And I'm fine with that if it doesn't. You know, if we just bring back Darby and we roll with Moreland inside and we draft a young fella, but he's not really ready yet, okay, I'm cool with that. But at the end of the day, when I look at the roster, especially the secondary, Kendall Fuller wants to play corner. His best position may be nickel, which is what it was when he was here the first time. It may be free safety now. He may be the best free safety we have on the roster. If they want to play around with these things, they better invest in another corner. Whether it be via the draft, in the first or second round, or it's via free agency. If they're going to play around with Kendall Fuller and move him around, they better invest in the cornerback position. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Again, I think that Fuller has the potential to play multiple positions on this defense, but I think they signed him to be a boundary corner. So, I think that's where they want to play him first. Landry Balbin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Landry Balbin, who writes, I'm probably late as hell. Hey, Louie, how about we see what Thaddeus got for tight end 2 and see what Kelvin can do? I ain't gonna lie to you. I forgot all about Thaddeus Moss. I ain't gonna even lie. Wasn't all that blown away by him coming out of LSU. He would have gotten drafted had he not had the injury. You know, there was this talk about, and I was guilty of saying, hey, well, he didn't get drafted. Well, he didn't get drafted because he was hurt. But even hurt guys get drafted, okay? Like, let's not play ourselves. If you're talented enough, somebody will take a flyer on you. You don't have to be first round talented to be injured and still get drafted. You could be a third round prospect, get injured, and still be a fifth round pick. He wasn't viewed as that. He wasn't viewed as a guy worthy of taking in the draft, despite having the season he had at LSU. Why? Because they didn't view him as being a difference maker at the tight end position. No one in the league did. And that injury just made it easier to say, hey, we could take another dude instead. So, I ain't gonna lie to you. I haven't even given Thaddeus Moss much thought. But he'll get an invite to camp. He'll be at camp. If he's any good and he's healthy, he'll show up. Because we don't have anything at tight end right now. So, I don't know what they're going to do. If they're going to add a veteran and a guy in the draft, if they're just going to add a couple of guys in the draft, if they're just going to add a couple of veterans in free agency, I don't know what they're going to do. But they got to do something at tight end. They got to do something. As far as Kelvin Harmon is concerned, he'll get an opportunity next year. We got nothing at receiver outside of Terry right now. When I say nothing, we got nothing concrete. You know, I'm still a Steven Sims Jr. fan, but he can be replaced. Last year was disappointing because he lost his confidence a little bit. We saw him gaining it a bit down the stretch, but he still had a drop in that Tampa Bay game. Still had a drop. You know, so he's a guy that can be replaced. I still think there's a place on this roster for him, but Kelvin Harmon is going to be on this team. AGG is going to be on this team. Terry McLaurin is going to be on this team. Those are your three definites for me at receiver. Nobody else is a lock. Cam Sims is a free agent. Don't think he's going anywhere. I think he'll be around. And if he is re-signed, then at that point, I will say he's a lock to be on this football team. but right now I can't make that declaration. They're going to sign someone. If they don't sign someone, it will be the most wrong I've ever been in all of my years of doing this, because I feel 1,000% certain that they're going to sign somebody as a wide receiver. May not be who you want or who I thought or any of that stuff, but they're going to sign somebody, if not multiple guys at receiver. They're going to sign at least one big one, I think. So, Harmon will be back. He'll get an opportunity. Thaddeus Moss, can't guarantee you that he'll make the team, but he'll be at camp. And that's all you can ask for when you're undrafted. Brendan McCloskey, my man B-Mac, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you for, I believe this is your third one of the night, tripling up, might be your fourth. My man B-Mac writes, would you take Corey Davis? You're damn right I would. I've said that many a times. Take Corey Davis in a heartbeat. Speaking of which, perfect segue to the wide receiver discussion that I've been talking about all night long. All night long, all night, all night long, all night, all night. Let's talk about these receivers, man. So, I've put the receiver position into 3 tiers. But I'm going to read you the list of guys that I think are intriguing and that Washington will be taking a gander at. Not necessarily being all that interested in every name up here, but they will stop at these names and at least say, hey, what about this guy? What does he do well? How does he fit this offense? Let's watch some tape on this guy. We start with A.J. Green, 33 years old. Not what we're looking for. I don't think he's a guy that we're interested in. He's 33 years old. He's coming off of what I would deem a lackluster season. He still thinks he can play at a high level. Not going to cost you a bunch to sign A.J. Green on a 1-year prove-it deal. But he's not what we're looking for at 33 years old. I don't think that's the case. Allen Robinson, 28 years old. To me, he's the cream of the crop in this year's wide receiver free agency class. And I think he's going to command the most amount of money. And, you know, what's interesting is I'm hearing a lot of Washington fans talking about Allen Robinson and wanting him here. And, look, it's not all about money anymore for guys like Allen Robinson. We saw it with Amari Cooper last year. With Cooper, I think it was more about being closer to home, which Dallas is, and he liked it in Dallas. It was a good fit for him. He didn't want to leave. So it didn't matter that Washington offered him more money. He's going to stay in Dallas. And, you know, we could get into the whole tax thing and how it's probably the same amount of money because Dallas, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't have any state tax. Whatever the case may be, that doesn't matter. They went after him aggressively. They didn't get him. But they may go after Allen Robinson. The thing about Allen Robinson is he spent 7 years in this league in quarterback purgatory. 7 years playing for the likes of Blake Bortles and Chad Henne and Mitchell Trubisky and Nicholas Foles, and the list goes on and on and on. You know, Chase Daniel, he's fed up, man. He's not looking to do the old song and dance again. He wants to link up with a legit quarterback. He's not looking to link up with Alex Smith and a couple of question marks or some young guy to be named later. I don't think Allen Robinson wants to come here because he can get his $20 million from anywhere. He doesn't have to get it here. If it comes down to Washington offering him $21 million a year and Indianapolis, and they're not going to do it, but just for shits and giggles, Indianapolis offering him 19 and Indianapolis lands Carson Wentz, he'd go there first. Not to say that Wentz is this all-world quarterback, but he's done it in this league at a high level before. if Cincinnati decides, hey, we want to spend at the receiver position, he'll go play with Joe Burrow before he comes to Washington. If Seattle says, hey, we need to pair up, they're not going to do this. They've already spent money at receiver. But if they say, hey, we need to pair up DK and Lockett with one more dude, they're not going to do this, but I'm just throwing this out. He's going to go to Seattle to play with Russell Wilson. You see where I'm going with this. There are more attractive destinations with quarterbacks that have higher status within league circles that Allen Robinson's going to look at and say, I'm not doing this shit again. If I go to Washington, I could be catching passes from Taylor Heineke and Kyle Allen. Literally, in a playoff game, Terry McLaurin and Steven Sims and Cam Sims and Logan Thomas were this close from catching passes from Steven Montez. I don't think Allen Robinson wants any part of that. But, hey, a wise man once told me, money talks and everything else can take a walk. T.Y. Hilton, he's 32. I'm not interested. Didn't see the T.Y. of, matter of fact, T.Y. looked like Eugene this past year. Don't know if T.Y. even exists anymore. And he's 32. I'm good. Samuel Watkins. Y'all give it up for Mr. Samuel Watkins. He's 28 years old. He'll be a free agent. I'm good. I'm good on Samuel Watkins. Here's why. You can't rely on Sammy to play 10 games in a season. You might get a cool 9 from Sam. In a good year, you'll get 10, 11. Now, that's a great year for Watkins. You know he's going to pull a hammy and miss 4 to 6 weeks. He's going to give you a strong 4, and then he's going to get turf toe, and he's going to miss another 3 to 5 weeks. And when you look up, you're like, man, shit. I just wasted a year. I only got 7 games out of Samuel Watkins. I'm good. I'm good on Samuel Watkins. But when he's on, he's a problem. I'm good, though. Marvin Jones is a guy that I think a lot of Washington fans are intrigued by despite his age. He's 31 years old. But he's still playing at a high level. When we say veteran, that's a little too veteran. It's a little too veteran for us. Let somebody else get Marvin Jones. Corey Davis. That's in my wheelhouse. 26 years old. Coming off of his rookie deal. Showing some things. Can be inconsistent at times. I'll admit that. But I think the best is yet to come. I like Corey Davis. I'd like to see him in a Washington uniform. Will it happen? I don't know. We'll see. Will Fuller, another guy, really intrigued by. He's a Golden Domer. You know how I feel about my Golden Domers. Most explosive receiver not named Tyreek Hill in the league, to me, is Will Fuller. I'd love to have him in Washington. He's exactly what we're looking for. Another speed demon opposite of Terry. And truly a guy that takes the top off of a defense. Yeah, he comes with some baggage. Got the PED suspension last year. Was suspended for the final 6 games, which means he's one PED positive test away from being suspended indefinitely. I'm aware. He's also another one of these high-maintenance athletes. He's a foreign car, always in the shop, needing some maintenance. I'm aware. I just talked about Samuel Watkins and him needing a tune-up on the hamstring, him needing a realignment on the ankle. I'm aware that Will Fuller, not too much different. But when he plays, he's electrifying. I like Will Fuller. John Ross, 27 years old. Again, I'm intrigued. And he's not, unlike Will Fuller or Corey Davis or even Samuel Watkins to a lesser degree or an Allen Robinson, he's not going to cost you a lot of money. Now, you might not be able to sign him for a long-term deal. And why would you want to? You could sign him to a 3-year deal, but there better be an exit ramp after year 1. Just in case you realize, oh, this is what Cincinnati saw out of this kid. However, he's not going to cost you. You could get John Ross for a 3-year, $27 million deal. You can get John Ross on a 3 for $24 special. If I'm him, I'm not signing that. I just want a 1-year, $7.5, $8 million deal. 4.5 if you try to play me and say, hey, you ain't done shit. I say, hey, it's that 3-game stretch in 2018. Go look it up. Or 2019. Go look it up. Whatever. I like John Ross. Antonio Brown, he's 33 years old. Had a Washington fan bring him up to me the other day, say, hey, he might have learned something in Tampa. He can still play. We all see that. Somebody might be willing to take a risk, and it's not going to cost you as much as it would have in the past. I'm good. I think Ron's good. I think we're good. Curtis Samuel. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names. He's 25. He's got familiarity with Ron and with Marty. It just makes too much sense. We need a guy with speed and diversity. He's going to end up being the guy we sign in free agency. I'm convinced of it. He came here. Ron gave him a test. He passed it with flying colors, put up over 170 yards of total offense on our ass. He's going to be a Washington football team member. I can see it now. Juju Smith-Schuster. He's 25. He's going to command a big deal on the free agent market. Not a speed demon by any stretch of the imagination, but he does all of the dirty work. He'd fit here in Washington. Don't think he's going to be in Washington, though. He's the kind of guy I think Rivera likes on the field. I don't know if they love his antics, if you would even call them that, off of it. Nelson Aguilar, 28 years old. I know a lot of you are like, hey, Nelson Aguilar stinks. I remember him from Philadelphia. Hey, ho, pump your brakes. Nelson Aguilar had a tremendous season in Vegas. If I'm the Raiders, I want him back. I think he'll be back in Vegas, honestly speaking. But he is available. You talk about wanting a guy with speed. Nelson Aguilar can run. And when Nelson is on, just like he was in 2017 for the Eagles, Nelson's a problem. Just like he was this year for opposing defenses. Go ask the Chiefs. Go ask the Dolphins. Ask any team that played the Raiders this year. Nelson Aguilar, problem. Panthers, Bills, he scorched them all. Isaiah McKenzie. Not going to hear a lot about him. He's 26 years old. Buffalo Bills football player, wide receiver. He's a little bit of everything. He's what I'm trying to remember the guy for the Steelers, what his name is. I can't remember. He's like the equivalent of like a Tavon Austin, Isaiah McKenzie is, except he's a better receiver. I like him because if you don't go after John Ross, you can go after Isaiah McKenzie. Here's why. Not going to cost you a lot now. I think Isaiah McKenzie is going to cost you a little bit more than John Ross, but because he's done a little bit more. But Isaiah McKenzie can also return kicks. He can return punts for you. He can do a little bit of everything, and we don't actually have a punt returner on the roster right now. So that's why a guy like Isaiah McKenzie, for me, is so intriguing. And he's a speed demon. Chris Godwin. He's 25. I don't see any way he gets out of Tampa Bay. No way, no how. But if he does, I'm interested. Even though we've seen him drop passes. He dropped like 20 of them against us. Don't care. Or as a wise man once told me, 100% don't like him. The drops I'm referring to, 100% don't care. Kenny Golladay. He's 28. Going to command top dollar on the free agent market. He's a bona fide number one. Had some health concerns in Detroit. But when he's healthy, and he's played full 16-game seasons before. When he's healthy, he's a beast. I'd love to have him. If you're willing to pay Allen Robinson, then you should be willing to pay Kenny Golladay. They're both 28. Be interesting to see what happens there. Here's another guy you probably never heard of. I like him a lot. His name's Tim Patrick. Plays for the Denver Broncos. Big kid, undrafted, making plays. He's 28 years old. But I saw a guy this year that when Cortland Sutton went out, stepped up and said, if you need somebody, I'm the man. Didn't expect that from Tim Patrick, but he did. I like him. And he's not going to cost you as much as Kenny Golladay, even though he can do some Kenny Golladay-like shit. He's great value Kenny Golladay. Okay. He's Dollar Tree Kenny Golladay, but he's still functional. Cost you a hell of a lot less, too. Allen Lazard, 26 years old. Green Bay Packers wide receiver. Showed some things this year. Showed a little bit of it last year, but really kind of broke out this year. Had an injury this year, but when he was healthy early in the season, and even when he came back, he was a difference maker. Big guy, can run a little bit. I'm good on Allen Lazard. Let somebody else try to get something out of one of these Green Bay Packers misfits. The Lions signed Geronimo Allison. Geronimo! I think he might have opted out this past year, but let somebody else pay the Packers cast-offs at receiver. Zach Pascal. I brought him up like a month ago on the show. A lot of you said, hey, he was here in Washington. I was like, you sure? And then I had just a bunch of people inundating me with, Zach Pascal was here. I got his autograph. Okay, I believe you guys. And I looked it up. He was here. He had a hell of a season. Really a nice 2-year run in Indy. He's 27. I'm a Monarch. He's a Monarch. So I'm rooting for him. Don't know if Zach Pascal is what I'm looking for here. Not what I'm looking for. But he can help somebody. Probably best if he stays in Indy, though. Probably best. Keelan Cole, Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver. 28 years old. Really talented guy. Can run a little bit. Not the biggest guy in the world, but he makes plays. I like Keelan Cole. And if they added Keelan Cole, I would say, hey, that's cool, but go get me another dude. But if you already got somebody and you added Keelan Cole, I'd be like, hey, I love it. So understand that Keelan Cole is a guy that I like. I don't love. I like him, though. And then Cam Sims, our guy, 25 years old, really young. Fits in the time frame of what we're looking to do. Showed some things last year. Showed some real promise that I don't think all of us knew. There were a lot of people out there that were like, Cam Sims is a beast. We just got to give him a chance. Well, they were vindicated. He played really well. But there was a drop on about 1 out of every 5 targets, it felt like. And I'm probably being a little over-aggressive with that number. It might have been like 1 out of every 8 targets. But it was still too many damn drops. But that doesn't mean I wouldn't like him back. It just means I don't want him back as my number 2 primary target. If he's the 3rd option or the 4th option, I'll take it. If he's the 2nd option again, we're in trouble. He won't be. He won't be. So I've put these receivers into tiers. Tier 1 are your elite free agent wide receivers, going to command top dollar on the open market. And if you want one of these guys, you're going to have to come up off of, at minimum, 16 mil per year. It probably goes as high as 22 million per year, but it's as low. The floor is 16 with these guys. Then tier 2, you're looking at guys that you can get from anywhere from $10 million a year to $15 million a year. That's what it's going to cost you. They're not as dynamic as the guys in tier 1, but they're not that far off either. And then you have tier 3. It's just everybody else. It's a guy that may be an aging veteran that you may throw a bone to. It's a guy that hasn't produced a ton in his last stop, but he's got talent, but he just maybe needs an opportunity. Maybe he didn't get, like Logan Thomas, for instance. That guy's in tier 3. So, tier 1 wide receivers: Allen Robinson, Kenny Golladay, Chris Godwin, Juju Smith-Schuster, Will Fuller. Those are your tier 1 wide receivers. Gonna command top dollar on the open market. I went to sportrack.com, one of my favorite sites when I'm talking free agency, and they have projections for player values going into free agency. For Allen Robinson, his next deal is estimated at $20.1 million. So if you want Allen Robinson, I've been throwing out 3 years, $60 million, 62 is what I said. They're going to be a little bit over $20 million. That's what it's going to take. Kenny Golladay, he's valued at $17.2 million if you want him. So we're talking about if you wanted to go, because he's 28, just like Allen Robinson, so you don't want to sign him to a 5-year deal. I mean, you could, and you could get out after 3 years, but just sign him to a 3-year deal. That's looking more like 3 years, $58 million. That's a shade over 17. So it'd be something along those lines, or 3 years, actually $54 million or so. I think 51 would be 17 on a 3-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. So 54, 55, something in there. Chris Godwin, valued at $16.1 million. If you want to sign him to a long-term deal. He's going to be back in Tampa. I don't think you're going to be able to get your hands on Chris Godwin. Juju Smith-Schuster, $16 million is what it's going to cost to get your hands on him. And Will Fuller is $16.2 million. So all of these guys are commanding top dollar on the free agent market if you're looking at signing one of these guys. We might be in the tier 1 market. It wouldn't shock me if we were. I think ultimately we should be shopping in tier 2. Curtis Samuel, Corey Davis, Sammy Watkins, Marvin Jones, Nelson Aguilar. Those are all my tier 2 wide receivers. Curtis Samuel is projected at $12.8 million, I believe, on his next contract. That's very affordable. I think he'll get more. I think he'll get something more like $14 million a year, something like that, especially if it's in Washington, where they know him and they think they can do so many things with him. Corey Davis, I was expecting this number to be a little bit higher, but the inconsistency in his ability to go ghost has his number right around $10 million. Like 9.9, right around 10. Let's just call it 10. I'd love some 4-year, $40 million Corey Davis. I'd love it. I don't see it happening. But the cap's coming down, so these numbers are a lot more realistic than they were, say, a year ago, where the cap was projected to probably be, non-coronavirus cap is probably somewhere in the $205 million range, and these numbers are inflated. But because the cap is coming down, I'm like, hey, Corey Davis said 10 mil a year? I'm interested. My ears are perked. Samuel Watkins. He's right around 11 million, like 10.6. That's cool. Somebody will pay him. I don't want to be that team. Marvin Jones. He's right around $10 million as well. Like 10.4 or so. That's cool. And he's still good. He can go play for somebody else. He's 31. I'm good. And Nelson Aguilar, he's 28. He's in this tier 2. He's right around $10 million as well. He's intriguing. I'm not going to lie. There are some drops from here and there, but I think Nelson Aguilar has the potential to be dynamic And if you give him the chance to be a number 2, I think he could be really dynamic. So I know I had a super chat. Hopefully it's not gone. I want to take this real quick. And here we go. Landry Bulbin. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Landry, who writes, were you a fan of Capri Bibbs? He had a lot of potential. For me, we need to bring back Geis and Wave Barber. Your thoughts? Geis is never playing in the NFL again. Geis needs to hope he doesn't face prison time. Not jail, prison. No, I don't want to Wave Barber. I talked about this. I know you got here probably a little late, but I talked about the niche that Peyton Barber has carved out for himself. There's just this level of comfort, this feeling that you get when you know it's 3rd and 1 and the opposition doesn't stand a chance because Peyton Barber's coming in the game and you're not going to stop him. That's a damn good feeling. 4th and 1, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 4th and 2. Peyton Barber's going to pick it up. Just off the strength of that, I want Peyton Barber on the roster. And Geis, I don't think he's ever playing football again. His career's over. And Capri Bibbs, he was cool. I was not a fan of Capri Bibbs. He was okay. But not a guy that I was banging the table for. We weren't talented in those days. So a guy like Capri Bibbs was fine. But Capri Bibbs shouldn't be on your roster if you're a good team. You can find better backs than Capri Bibbs, which is why he's not in the league right now. He had some talent, but you can find more talent than that. Okay. So I've laid out the receiver position. If I'm Washington, I'm going after a few names in tier 1. I don't think that Juju Smith-Schuster is a guy that I would be willing to get into a bidding war. I've already heard that the Jets are ready to go all in on him. I'm not the biggest Juju Smith-Schuster fan anyway. Wasn't coming out of USC. I thought that he kind of took a step back this year. Even though the numbers weren't terrible, he was okay. I'm a Will Fuller guy. I'm a Kenny Golladay guy. I'm an Allen Robinson guy. Chris Godwin, I think, is going back to Tampa, but if he's available, throw him in the mix as well. Tier 2, I'm not a Curtis Samuel guy, you know that, but I've already come to the realization that he's going to be here. So that's fine. If they sign him, he wouldn't be enough for me. You sign him, I want John Ross too, or I want Isaiah McKenzie as well. Like Curtis Samuel, but to me, Curtis Samuel and Isaiah McKenzie are too close to similar players. But that's the thing. If you sign Curtis Samuel, because of his injury history, you should have another guy that is kind of like him so that if he leaves the offense for a 3-4 week stretch, you don't have to throw away all the Curtis Samuel stuff that you have, that package that you have for him. You don't have to just ball it up and say, well, won't be using that for 3 weeks. You can just plug in John Ross, or you can plug in Isaiah McKenzie. Corey Davis is a guy that I've talked about all offseason. Hell, while we were in season, is a guy that I'm very interested in. I still want him. And Nelson Aguilar is really intriguing to me, too. I know there are probably a lot of Washington fans that say, oh, he's trash. Saw him in Philadelphia, dropped everything. Okay. Well, you didn't watch him this year in Vegas. And I very vividly remember. And yeah, I remember all the drops. I also remember 2017 in Philadelphia as well. So, anyway, I digress. I just want to run down a couple of names at the tight end position while we're here, before we get out of here. I don't think we're going to do anything at tight end. I don't. But here's some names, just in case you were wondering who's out there and what we might be looking at. Hunter Henry, guy that we were really interested in last year, and the Chargers took him off the board with a franchise tag. He's now an unrestricted free agent. He's 27. Had some injury concerns in the past. But I don't know how much Washington is willing to spend. If last year all they were willing to spend on the position was, $7 million on Logan Thomas, why would they spend 11 or 12 million dollars per on Hunter Henry this year? I don't think that's what they're looking to do. Rob Gronkowski is 32 years old. He's not leaving Tampa, and he's not leaving Tom Brady. So I almost didn't write him down, but it would be an injustice to not write his name down. Tyler Kroft is a guy that I thought would have produced more for Buffalo. He's 29. He was first drafted by Cincinnati about maybe 6-7 years ago. Thought he would have done more on his second contract with Buffalo. For whatever reason, it didn't work, whether it's injuries or the emergence of other guys. He's solid, though. He can block. He can catch. He's a better athlete than people give him credit for. He's intriguing as a low-risk, high upside proposition. Yeah, again, back in, at 29, you kind of are what you are at that point of your career, but I think there's some untapped potential there. Just like Logan Thomas. We got him at age 29. He's going to be 30. But we feel like, hey, he's just scratching the surface. Jacob Hollister is 28 years old. Seattle Seahawks tight end. Played with Josh Allen at Wyoming. He's not a blocker. He's just a receiving threat. I don't know if I want to go down that route again. I've been down that road several times. I don't know if I want to do that again. But he can catch it. Gerald Everett is the guy that a lot of Washington fans, myself included, have brought up. The next two names, as a matter of fact, are the two guys that I'm most interested in. Gerald Everett, ex-Rams tight end. Sean McVay drafted him to be his new Jordan Reed. He didn't quite ever manifest himself into that role, per se, but he showed enough talent to show that he belongs in this league. I'm very intrigued by Gerald Everett. Very intrigued. And he's 27 years old. Jonnu Smith, 26 years old. Tennessee Titans, tight end. Very intrigued by him as well. Those are the two guys. If you told me that we had some extra money to go out and spend, and they wanted to spend it on the offensive side of the football, specifically at tight end, I'd say, hey, Gerald Everett, Jonnu Smith. Find a way to make it happen. Jake Butt, 26 years old, tight end out of Denver, was like a 5th-round draft pick out of Michigan, I believe. Thought he was going to be a lot better than he has been. I think he dealt with a major injury, but I think he has a chance to be a little bit better than what he has put on tape to this point of his career. And he's 26. One of those low-risk, high-reward type of propositions that I think they're really interested in at the tight end position. And then Robert Tonyan. Look, guy blew up this year. He's 27 years old. Scored like 13 touchdowns for the Packers. I just don't see them letting him out of the building, personally. But he's out there. So that's another name to consider at the tight end position. If they wanted to go that route, I don't think they ultimately will. Anyway, got no more super chats. I don't see any comments to read. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I didn't even realize it, but we hit the 3-hour mark. So good gracious sake. I told you time flies when you're having fun. And we had fun tonight. I did. I can't speak for you. I did. So thank you guys for joining me on the show one last final time. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And yes, hit the like button. 430 of you, only 218 likes. Let's see if we can't get that up to 250 by the time this thing is all said and done. Really do appreciate you guys for chopping up with me on short notice on a Tuesday night, no less. Can't thank you guys enough for this. And look forward to chopping it up with you when I come back. Going out of town, much needed break to get away. And I'll come back and we'll hit the ground running with this draft, with free agency, and everything else under the sun. But until then, I'm your man, Louie T. Remember, I'm a Washington fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold until we meet again. Hail to the beloved Washington football team. Until next time, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. You guys enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend. We'll reconvene next week. You guys have a good one.
LouieTeeNetwork.